Splatoon 3 North American League 2026 season. This is Event 2, preseason week 2, and we are so excited to have you back. I have to introduce the company that I am keeping today. I am joined by two fantastic analysts of the scene, K-Bot and Falco. And K-Bot, let's go ahead and start with you. How are you doing, and are you excited for today?
Why wouldn't I be excited for today, Zach? Fantastic to see everyone getting back into action and getting back into those battles as we prep for the full length of the season. It's going to be a fantastic season in 2026, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what our teams have in store for us.
As am I. And Falco, again, we're welcoming you back after following along the 2025 season. What are some of your takeaways in comparison to the changes that we've seen from that season into this new one?
Yeah, we got a little bit of a preview of it last week with week 1. Of course, we're so excited for the game update with the health bar, with the aura, all the changes in the game, Zach.
Well, we are so excited to get started. Let's go ahead and take a look at our schedule for today. We've got a suite of events packed in. Of course, yesterday we released another episode of the Splatoon 3 North American League show. That airs Fridays at 10 a.m. Pacific, and you are currently watching the Splatoon 3 North American League 2026. Once again, Event 2, these start tournament-wise for the latter portion at noon Pacific time, and these top 8 live streams you can find at 4 p.m. Pacific. Then on Sundays, you can indulge in the Splatoon 3 North American League 2026 Sunday Scrim. That starts Sundays at noon Pacific as well. You can join as a solo, duo, trio, or bring an entire squad of 4. And to borrow a phrase from Jordan, and it all leads up to the Splatoon 3 North American League 2026 playoffs on June 20th and 21st, and the live stream for both of those days will be at noon p.m. Pacific. Let's get into the tournament format next. We'll take a look at how the points are shaping to be this time around. The latter portion, which is already concluded for this event, you can see 1st through 8th get 60 points, and if you can place 1st in top 8, that will grant you an additional 40 to bring you to a cool 100 for this preseason. Next week, that regular season, these points will start to count. And the change, of course, from last season compared to this one is that your best 4 event scores are what will contribute to the final regular season standings, as opposed to 5 event scores from the previous season. Let's go ahead and take a look next at the top 8 rules and stage list as well. Top 8 is going to be best of 5 to start each of these matches out. It'll be the higher seed that will choose the mode and the lower seed that is going to be choosing the stage. But after that first game, the winning team will have the honor of picking the mode, and the losing team will choose the stage. And every game mode is available between Turf War, Clan Blitz, Splat Zones, Tower Control, and Rainmaker. However, each of those modes can only be played once during the match. So if we go the distance to that game 5, we will see all of them. And K-Bot, we have our stage list up. We were noting before the show got started some changes from the 2025 edition to this one. What jumps out at you?
Yeah, so the first off, the largest thing I think that jumps out is the fact the stage pool is a little larger now. We have 12 stages that are now at the disposal to be selected, which will add a little more variety and interesting strategies that could pop up. You could see a team particularly favor one specific stage constantly as they keep going. And we also have a few different stages come into the rotation. So stages like Mahi Mahi Resort and Shipshape Cargo Co. I could be very interested to see how those play out in our setting here. Those are a little more, flatter stages across the board. They have less verticality to them and tend to favor some of those longer range picks along with that. So we'll see if those sorts of things pop up, but certainly going to be exciting to see a little more variety in our stage selection.
Well, and as we shift from stages to standings, Falco, we talked a little bit about how Event 1 preseason week 1 has already gone by. You're seeing how that one shaped out, and a few familiar teams and even familiar players coming through into this preseason week 2.
Yeah, of course. We have Ink this. They are going to be returning for this round. C4K going to be coming back too. Again, we saw a lot of great action in week 1 with TZS taking the win over Triple Dippers. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, you need to go back and watch that week 1. It was fantastic. But yeah, we have some new teams this time around, Zach, and I can't wait to get started.
Well, that was the standings from preseason week 1. Let's take a look at our top 8 bracket for this week, preseason week 2. And here is how it shapes out. It's going to be Ziphius taking on Honey Badgers. A cute team will go up against the aforementioned Ink this that Falco was referencing. Not for Radio going to be taking on Wave Riders. And K-Bot, the first match I believe we'll be spectating here is C4K, one of those teams that was in that top 8 last week against the Honey Badgers for our winners quarterfinal.
Yeah, C4K squeaked in last week, but didn't quite make a ruckus in the bracket stage. We'll see if they're able to do that here as they go up against the Honey Badgers, newcomers into the formal live streams here on these broadcasts. So it'll be fun to see what strategies that crew can bring to the table here as well, Zach. The other thing I wanted to comment on, Ziphius is back. Those of you who are astute or long-time Splatoon 3 North American League viewers, you will recognize that team from the preseason last go-around. That is, in fact, the same roster, and they are back in action. Excited to see if they're able to defend their 1 seed. Falco pointed out 22-0 in the latter stage in terms of games played. So we'll see if any team is up to the challenge.
It's going to be a tough team to beat down the stretch, but we have just gotten word of our first mode of the day, Falco. It will be Rainmaker. And if you please would do the honors of discussing the Rainmaker rules with everyone.
Yeah, of course, Rainmaker. So there's going to be a Rainmaker in the middle of the stage. The goal is to pop this Rainmaker and take control of it, and you can use it as a weapon in the game. You're going to be carrying that Rainmaker to one of potentially 2 checkpoints on the stage to break through that checkpoint and continue on forward towards the enemy territory. And then after that, you're going to try and carry the Rainmaker even further to the end, but if neither team reaches the goal, the team who comes closest to the goal wins.
And K-Bot, we have a couple of stages that tend to be preferred for Rainmaker. Scorch Gorge comes to mind, Undertow comes to mind, but we're actually going to see Hagglefish Market to start us out. This feels like a stage that can almost accommodate any mode that's thrown at it.
You know, the interesting thing, Zach, as we talk about tactics in how this continues to play out, is the fact that the team gets to choose a stage that cannot be brought back for the remainder of that series. Leads me to believe here that the Honey Badgers might not want to see a Hagglefish Market Splat Zones game or a Hagglefish Market Tower Control game, which would tend to be more traditional, and instead are opting to get it out of the way here early. We'll see whether or not that pans out for them here, but to your point, a little more unconventional in terms of what some teams might be expecting, and unconventional is always exciting to watch.
Well, and certainly I cannot wait to see what our winners quarterfinals has. And Falco, kind of continuing on the theme of the mental aspect of the game that's not as easily visible on this side of things. If you have that hour break between the ladder and the top 8, is there anything that you would do as either a coach or player to kind of keep yourselves warm and ready for this first game of that top 8?
Yeah, the first thing I'm doing is stretching, getting some water, get rehydrated, because you just game for 3 hours. You might be gaming for another 3 more. But yeah, then it's time to reflect on what you did. What games went well? What games did we struggle with? Unless you're Ziphius, you have lost at least 1 game here in the latter portion. So these teams have a lot to focus on when they come into this, and having an hour might not be enough time, but we'll see how they're going to compare against each other.
Both teams 2 match losses under their belt so far. 5-2 for Roulette, or for C4K was 7-2, and now getting into this one, we got to shout out Czar on the spec cam. Beautiful work as always. Cannot wait to see what he puts up today. But our first game of the event number 2 preseason week 2, and K-Bot, what are we seeing compositionally for these teams?
You know, the interesting thing, Zach, and I picked up on this a little bit of watching the live stream last week, is that we're seeing more of these middle-ranged weapons come out. Things like the edits, heavy edit Splatling, or the S-Blast continues to provide some of that more consistent pressure of those middle ranges. Meanwhile, the C4K here has a little more of that range, especially with that Pro, and we'll see whether or not it'll be able to keep the Honey Badgers at an arm's length away.
Goodra helping to keep people an arm's length away by getting the Killer Whale 5.1 out and trying to defend the Rainmaker as best they can. They've got that tactical buff up. Meltdown and Falco, this is something I saw when we were prepping. They consistently use that Dapple Dooley's Knock, which is not an often played weapon.
It really isn't a common weapon, and it also is going to have that Killer Whale 5.1, so you're going to have 2 of that specific special on this team. And for such a narrow stage and on Rainmaker, it is going to be a very powerful special that Honey Badgers are going to try to use to their disposal.
Well, Meltdown going to be the one getting the lead here just barely, though. Tried to make the jump and was even going to have to face it. Looked like the Ultra Stamp shot there as we see Goodra backing off. They're going to lose both of their lower range weapons. And K-Bot, this was something that was quite popular in event number 1, was 3 shorter range weapons alongside 1 mid to long range one as C4K gets on the podium.
You're starting to see some of the reason why here, Zach. C4K is able to just keep up a little more consistent pressure over time, but the second that the Honey Badgers can dive back in with those shorter range weapons and really get up into their opponent's business, they're going to swing the tides of the momentum right back around, and they'll be the ones to take down the pedestal.
Yeah, C4K almost the opposite end of the spectrum. We see Talk with an up-close and personal splat. That's going to carve the way for them to help run forward here. They have that lead by just a single point. Nugget going to face some pressure, and that's Sylveon on one of my favorite weapons, the Tri-Slosher DeVoe, taking them down. The Rainmaker going to idle here, Falco on the side, and we're back in kind of that neutral state where these teams are jockeying for position in mid.
Yeah, as soon as one of the teams breaks through that checkpoint, the Rainmaker is just going to go back to the other team. So this is a very neutral game right now. We're going back to Splatoon 2. No more checkpoints at this point. And again, it's the defense of both of these teams as soon as it comes to the ledge are just phenomenal. But Nugget's going to try and make a run for it. Sylveon able to stop them. Again, the Rainmaker's still hugging this right side right now. Honey Badgers are having to back up a little bit. We'll see if C4K can push forward.
Once again, we're seeing one of the updated changes from 11.0 come through. Those constant HP bars. This Nugget goes all the way over to the left. Doesn't make that much progress, but a 52 will extend the lead. Meltdown tried to use and will barely successfully get some pot shots onto the Rainmaker shield, but it will be Nugget on the Sploosh-o-matic here, moving forward, K-Bot, and getting that lead up to 27.
Just running it in for as much distance while you still can, knowing that your teammates are down slightly. Good heads-up awareness to get some more points and a further lead on the board for C4K. And they should be able to hold on to this here if they can keep the game at a neutral state as it has been for the majority of the time so far. The Rainmaker staying in mid and the Honey Badger staying in front of the members of C4K is exactly what they need to track them down.
C4K with practically the opposite range composition. They have some mid to long range and then a Sploosh complementing all that. That's going to have the Ultra Stamp and Curling Bomb. Meltdown trying to move forward here. Gets beset upon by a number of Honey Badgers there as we see C4K moving back. Bland trying to play jump rope with the Killer Whale 5.1. And Liv, Falco, haven't talked a ton about the change where Snipe Rider was so strong as a tactical weapon. Now not only are we seeing things like the Tri-DeVoe, but this heavy edit that just got a splat onto Goodra.
Yeah, a lot of players would be using it prior to using the Snipe Rider, so it's not an uncommon choice. But to your point, the Snipe Rider was more common before, and you know, with the heavy edit choice too, you're going to have some of that range, but you're going to have to respect the distance that you have as well. And I think that's really where C4K is going to have to figure out what their positioning wants to be.
Honey Badgers have dedicated Meltdown, it seems like, to be their Rainmaker carrier as they carve a path. Astro on this Dynamo Roller, which did get some pretty sizable buffs and then tuned back down a little bit. Meltdown trying to move forward, not enough room on the ramp, so it'll stop at 42. And Nugget, with that great ink output from the Sploosh, does help to get the Rainmaker shield pop. They'll go down, they'll try to move it out, and Liv will successfully be able to at least turn it back to that left-hand side ramp. But K-Bot, only 20 seconds left for them to try and reclaim this lead for Honey Badgers.
I do like Liv getting this Rainmaker out of position. It makes it that much more challenging for Honey Badgers. And as the members of C4K come back in off of their respawn, they're going to pick up this Rainmaker and start running it back to their own spawn location, making it even more challenging for the Honey Badgers to take care of business. And in fact, that will be game one going to C4K.
Looks like that's Tuck getting the Flow Aura State right at the end of things on Hagglefish Market. And what better way to start match 1, game 1 of top 8 by ending it with that Flow Aura State. You can see there the celebrations from the team as they take down Honey Badgers in game number 1. And Falco, thoughts on that opening game as we see these teams starting to jockey for position here?
Yeah, it was a pretty conservative gameplay at the beginning. You know, both of the teams, they got to their first checkpoint, able to get the stop. But then after that, we saw some more gutsy plays, especially maybe from the Sploosh player, trying to grab the Rainmaker, push it as far up as they can. And then all came down to carrying the Rainmaker back towards their spawn. And if Hagglefish Market, that is a very hard stage to chase somebody down. Of course, you can flank on the left side or any other possible way to get to whoever's carrying the Rainmaker. But even if you have two killer whales, it's going to be very difficult to track them down.
Seemed as though neither team wanted to play in the other's optimal range or playstyle, so we saw a lot of neutral game back and forth. We saw the Rainmaker basically getting trapped in those left or right hand side alleyways for a time, and trying to move them out at all didn't really bear a ton of fruit. We did see that left hand side pedestal fall, one of the 2 possible first checkpoints there, K-Bot. But do you think the stage and mode change here will shake up the neutrality of the play that we've seen so far from these 2 teams?
We'll always see. I think, Zach, typically the way I like to look at games of Splatoon 3 are one of those 2 teams is going to be trying to slow down the pace of play. They're going to be trying to chip away at their opponents from a slightly longer range, and the other team is going to try to speed up the pace of play by trying to dive into their opponents, take a lot of those small firefights, quick 1v1s and engagements, and hope that they can come out on top through the chaos. It seems like C4K was able to slow down the pace of play in that game, and that is their win condition in the current compositional matchup. So if there's a possibility here, well, first of all, they're able to control the choice of mode. So they might go somewhere like Splat Zones or Tower Control, where some of those longer range presence weapons can continue slowing down the pace of play, but then it'll be a matter of trying to find some way for the Honey Badgers to speed it right back up, where picking a stage that could get out of hand and into their momentum very quickly.
Well, K-Bot, I'll keep it with you for just a second, because we do have our mode for game number 2, and it will be Tower Control. Our first time seeing the mode today. Let's figure out what the rules are going to be for this one.
Right, so I just mentioned in Tower Control, you'll have to jump on the tower to take control. If no opponents are on the tower, it will begin moving towards the goal on your opponent's side of the stage. Of course, you'll want to rack up as many points and get it as far as you can by riding the tower through checkpoints on the way to the goal in the opponent's territory. And if neither team reaches the goal, the team who comes closest to the goal comes out on top, Zach. But what I was saying earlier, with this being perhaps a little slower of a paced mode, because that tower only moves at that constant rate, there's no way to change the pace of motion there. And that could be the tool that allows C4K to have those moments where they're able to outrange their opponents a little better here.
And Falco, I don't foresee a ton of composition changes, and in part because the specials that they brought mostly play at distance. We'll discount the Tacticooler, but we saw things like Booyah Bomb, Ultra Stamp, which a lot of players prefer to throw, and then of course that Killer Whale 5.1, which is the only what we call global special in the game. Do you foresee that continuing here?
You know, I don't know if the Honey Badgers will stick with 2 of them this time around like they did before. I could see definitely one working, as typically it's not uncommon to see one Killer Whale that's in play. But what K-Bot said about slowing down the pace of the game, not only are you slowing the speed at which you control the objective, it's on a defined path. So the player can't choose where the tower is going to go. It only has one path. So if you have a player who typically likes to, you know, take the road less traveled, maybe catch a player off guard, it's going to be much trickier to do that with an objective like Tower Control.
You are correct in that with Rainmaker, you're splitting off on those different pedestals. You have a choice, and oftentimes you can either break one that's closer and then completely disregard that side of the stage the entire way through, or you can basically just go with one path and stay going on there. With tower control, that path is outlaid for everyone to see. You don't know where it's going to stop. You just know that at the checkpoint, you know it's going to stop right there, and then it's going to be beset upon by a ton of different specials or different players that are trying to use their maximum range in order to play it out. So K-Bot, as we know that, is there any style of play or any weapon that you think would particularly excel here as we move on to tower control and as we look for a team like Honey Badgers to try and gain some ground?
I think the thing that's most telling is the stage selection, Zach, which we did get worded is Mako Mart here. And I think that's a wonderful selection for a team that's trying to play a shorter range in general composition, because I'm sure, as you know very well, Zach, with your favorite weapon in the game, Mako Mart, you love to be that little ledge goblin around some of those stacks and boxes on the Tri-Slosher Nouveau or vanilla variants. And so I think the choice here is a great one for the stage selection from the Honey Badger.
Can't discount the Ashen either. We did see that last week on Urchin Underpass, but let's get into game number 2. TC, as K-Bot said, on Mako Mart, and Falco, I'm seeing a Luna Blaster come out on one side, and on the other, a what we call Vanilla Blaster to counter the one brought by Tuck.
Yeah, Tuck is going to bring out the, Vanilla Blaster as well. Both teams are going to be bringing those out with the bubble, and we mentioned the Luna Blaster as well. So again, Blaster is a very traditional choice here on tower control. 2 are going to go down, 3 are going to go down on Honey Badgers right now. So C4K getting to that first checkpoint with a delayed wipeout. They're going to get past this with Breezak.
Similar specials, but different weapons, as we also see the Tri-Stringer, which does have that Killer Whale 5.1. The Big Bubbler coming up, which is a fan favorite on tower control, and Nugget gets by the shot there from Astro and K-Bot. That's going to help lead to a wipeout.
The momentum of Mako Mart here as you watch 2 members of C4K use the tower to leap over the left side of the stage into opponent territory and then catch their opponents by surprise. They're going for the knockout here, and they will find it faster than I can finish my sentence. C4K is now up 2 games to 0.
Have we a world record tracker somewhere? Do we have any stats on how fast a game of tower control can end? Because, oh my absolute goodness, less than a minute into that game, C4K does not take their foot off the gas and comes roaring through Falco to extend their lead to 2 games. How did they keep the Honey Badgers so far pushed back?
Well, we talked about the double blaster composition that really helped out, able to guard the ledges. It wasn't until 11 units remaining that the first member of C4K finally got splatted. So if you're able to survive that entire time, a delayed wipeout is essentially as strong as a wipeout in a mode like tower control. They rode that momentum, they kept up that momentum as well, and just sealed the deal at the end.
And K-Bot felt like they had a special save for each of the checkpoints. Killer Whale 5.1 used at checkpoint number 1. Big Bubbler used at checkpoint number 2, although there was not much resistance coming their way to chip away at that Big Bubbler. But it seems like even with their high offensive output, they had their defenses down pat as well.
It's all about determining the best time to strike, right? Even though I said they want to slow down the pace of play, that's largely true and offer that more sustained presence. But if you can keep a sustained presence on the opponent's side of the stage, where they might not be expecting you, using the tower path and the tower itself to leap over a wall you wouldn't normally be able to access without the use of that tower, and you can set up on that side underneath your opponent's spawn point, that is so impactful and beneficial to control that space and that area. And to your point, Zach, with a special consistently to back it up, but not only those just a special in general, but the specific ones like the Big Bubbler that can have that massive shield on top of the tower for multiple seconds, 10, maybe 15, 20 seconds as that tower continues going. The tower goes faster than 1 point per second, so that's an easy 20, 30 points on the board, that you're protected underneath that, getting yourselves to the next checkpoint and continuing to set your team up for success and keep your opponents at bay.
Well, Falco, C4K with, regardless, their last chance to pick the mode, and they have selected Splat Zones. So let's go ahead and take a look, Falco, at what the rules are like for this mode.
All right, moving on to Splat Zones. So there's going to be a designated area called the Splat Zone typically in the middle of the stage. You have to cover that area with your team's ink. If you can control the zone, that counter is going to start from 100 and move all the way down to 0 to potentially knock out your opponent. But if neither team achieves a knockout, whichever team has the fewest count at the end of the match wins. If you lose control of that zone, you are going to get awarded, or not awarded, you don't want them, penalty points here, and it's going to be roughly about half of what you had just achieved. So you want to hold on to that Splat Zone as long as you can, prolong not getting any penalty points, and you just want to get that win.
And Falco, to stick with you here, doubtful that we would see a double blaster composition come back for a mode like Splat Zones, which does feel like the great equalizing mode in a lot of instances. Looks like Manta Maria is going to be the pick for the stage. Pretty wide open, long, and linear stage, and also a new one for the 2026 season.
That's right. In this stage, with all the greats, especially in the middle of the stage, is going to favor a lot of these long-range weapons. We saw the heavy edit Splatling come out. We saw a few longer ranges as well. We saw the Splattershot Frozen Pro before as well. Of course, not very long range, but longer than most of the weapons that we had seen here. So very different play style, but still a decently narrow map stack.
And K-Bot, you take a stage, it's similar in a way to Urchin Underpass, where you're taking quite a large stage and you're cutting a lot of the relevant area by quite a bit because you're focusing a lot of your manpower in mid, and there's greats and high ground areas where, as Falco mentioned, weapons like Splatlings can play and never really leave if they don't get pressured, but those shorter range weapons do have to play maybe around those walls, you would think, to try and contest.
Yeah, it's going to be about trying to enact that element of surprise, right? I think the one thing about Manta Maria is, regardless of where you are on the stage, you have a very limited vantage point or options that you can have to have influence on other areas of the stage, right? So I'm thinking it's very challenging to reach on the top of what we call sometimes the opponent's bunker or something that sits over top of the zone and connects the two across that center mast. Sometimes it's challenging to get up there, so you have to force somebody up there, maybe with the presence of a splat bomb or another sub weapon, or the use of a special weapon outright to try to eliminate some of the pressure and presence from those longer range weapons. We'll see what the Honey Badgers might have in store here, but it'll be an uphill battle for sure.
And Falco, I'm already seeing myself needing to eat my words, as we are going to have a double blaster composition. The custom blaster comes through instead of the vanilla. And on the opposite side of things, there's that Trinavo and that Dapple Dooley's Nocti once again.
Yeah, I like the custom blaster choice, of course, with the triple splashdown, able to hop from those grates down onto the zone, splatting somebody unsuspectedly. I feel like that's going to be what's on their agenda.
And both teams as well bringing out the Splattershot Pro Frozen, which saw quite a bit of play in the 2025 season, coming through with the Splat Bomb and Tenta Missiles, a special that we haven't seen a ton of before now. And Tuck trying to make use of some of the point sensors to catch out some of their opponents on Honey Badgers. Liv putting that Tacticooler right on top of one of the zones. K-Bot, as we see one of the few two-zone stages that Splatoon 3 has to offer.
Yeah, and with two zones, you'll have to cap both the zones at the same time in order for that counter to start going down. C4K here has, and you'll notice they're already starting to spread out and utilize their resources to apply pressure at multiple points of the stage, including those two members up on that top side, with another two, now a delayed 3, now a delayed 4, going down for the Honey Badgers. C4K is continuing to run away with this one.
That is a wipeout, and run away they shall, as we see Gudra trying desperately to get over on that far, what is our left-hand side, but they are immediately spotted by C4K. Tenta Missiles coming out, so that's going to disperse some of the resistance here, but Falco, C4K picking right back up where they left off.
Yeah, we talked about the lockouts in the last game. I was thinking, you know what, if there's another game mode to be played where lockouts are key, it is Splat Zone. So there is a reason why C4K chose this specific mode. Again, finally letting one of their members go down. But Zach, this is a 100-0 knockout. C4K getting that 3-0.
Replicating the match win that they had against Honey Badgers in the latter portion, we see a knockout to cap this one off as a sweep for C4K. The last two games of that K-Bot looking quite convincing, and this could be a team to watch out for down the stretch.
I agree. They clearly have a strategy that's working for them, that they know how to play and know where it's going to be strongest, right? To Falco's point about splat zones, I called that out earlier. I said they're probably going to pick either zones or tower control. They did do just that, which is exactly what I would want to see if I was them. And coming through with that confident playstyle, knowing the extent of their weapons, and it looked like they almost had a little bit of practice under their belts with how they were deciding who goes where on each of those stages, both with their plan of attack onto the opponent's side of the stage on Manta Maria in that last game and on Mako Mart in game 2. They clearly have a plan. It clearly worked for them. And any team that has a plan, knows what they're doing, and is confident with it, Zach, is very dangerous.
And Falco, to continue on that point of K-Bots about an aggressive playstyle, you might, as I did, look at a composition like Double Blaster and say, well, how are they going to keep those zones painted? You just kind of send them forward, and if you have some confident support or anchor players to make sure that the zones are capped, it can end up being pretty strong down the stretch.
Right, especially when you don't really need to repaint the zone many times because your blasters are too busy getting splats along the way. A lot of what C4K did very well is they identified immediately where members of Honey Badgers were. You would see one member poke out, you would then see 3 members of C4K immediately rush to that person. Of course, when you have a blaster against ledges, it is so hard to even get close to that ledge. You can, maybe chuck some splat bombs, throw a suction bomb or two, but you don't want to get too close to that ledge or else you're just going to get splatted right away. So I think everything that lined up in C4K's favor really paid off in that game.
It's dangerous regardless, being an Inkling or Octoling on the high seas on a stage like Manta Maria. But let's go ahead and take a look at our bracket at the conclusion of that one. We do see already 3 of our 4 winners quarterfinals matches completed, and the top 3 of them, all 3 in fact, were a sweep. Xiphius, C4K, and a cute team dispatching their opponents respectively and moving into our winners semifinals, just waiting on that last matchup between Not For Radio and Wave Riders, which currently sits at 2-1 in favor of Not For Radio. As a reminder, this is double elimination and should be quite fun here, K-Bot, as we look forward to our next matchup, which will be coming up soon. But anything that stands out to you as far as the bracket, because we're seeing pretty much it play out exactly how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, Zach, the interesting thing is, based on the little perusal I was just able to do, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm quite confident that C4K and Xiphius did not get the chance to play during the latter stage. C4K lost to 2 other opponents, not Xiphius. And so that matchup, especially with how C4K just performed after they found their footing in games 2 and 3, could be, signs that they can make that match pretty competitive and potentially knock off Xiphius here early, send them down to an earlier losers bracket perhaps than some folks might be expecting.
And we definitely, Falco, saw some of that take place last week. And this, as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, is going to be our last chance to see these teams warming up and tuning up for the regular season. It's going to be 8 weeks. As we like to mention, it is a marathon, not a sprint. And a lot of these teams have already made roster adjustments and changes that, if I remember correctly, they will not be able to make after the start of Event 4, which is regular season week 2. So they are trying to make sure that they are fine-tuned and ready to go.
Right, and we can look at a cute team, for example, because 2 of their members last week did play under Broke Birds in week 1. Silver and Goliath, they are now apart playing with Riv and Weatherman. And Xiphius, it actually is a pickup between a team called Xiphius and DPS only. So Xiphius doesn't have their full roster here this time, but if you saw on the board, Zach, they won 3. They won 22 games prior. They're on a 25-game winning streak. Whatever's on the roster right now, it's working.
That is going to be such a difficult opponent to face. Taking a look at some of their potential weapons, you have Droid playing things like the Dynamo Roller, maybe even that Pro Frozen that we just saw in the previous game. V Heavy going to be primarily on, I would think, the Vanilla Heavy Splatling, which is going to be a great ink outputting weapon. Jay, who typically plays Ink Brush or Ink Brush Devo, and then rounds it out by Jose, who I believe is also on Blasters, which we saw K-Bot did quite a number in the last 2 games that we witnessed.
No, the interesting thing to call out, just we're mentioning it multiple times already, is the rise of some of those splatlings, right? Not only with that heavy splatling, but the heavy edit splatling can be thrown in there as well. And these are picks that in the 2025 season of the Splatoon 3 North American League, we didn't see a ton of, especially in those waning stages. A lot of folks were preferring that Snipe Rider, which some people would consider kind of can counter the Splatling, because with the Splatling, you have a little longer before you can have more of that sustained presence. Meanwhile, with the Charger, you have that tapping potential from a much longer range, and potentially could even have that charge stored up and ready to go and pop out and just hit them with the blink of an eye. So the interesting thing, I think, and the reason that's able to happen is because now we're also seeing the Dynamo enter. After a handful of balance changes, that now is also a weapon that folks are selecting in that more traditional anchor role, meant to be the back person trying to keep the defenses strong for the team and providing that additional paint output and coverage across the stage overall. So the dynamic and how all of those are going to play together will be interesting to watch as the season unfolds, especially when some of those higher named Charger players start to dust off the sticks and come back in. But for now, seeing the rise and the variety of weapons that are available to play and accessible to play here in Splatoon 3 has been fantastic.
To your point, anytime the meta, quote unquote, is diverse enough to where we can see a plethora of different weapons and weapon classes come through. Talking about Splatlings, we did see some of those either Snipe Rider or Charger players swap over to something like a mini Splatling on stages such as Urchin Underpass in order to play maybe a Rainmaker or even a Turf War. And the Heavy, of course, has seen some balance changes of its own. I know we have a couple of players in the pool that played at least the latter portion, if not top 8, that play Nautilus, that play Ballpoints, even maybe a Hydra main or 2. So I think that is a weapon class that has really feasted over these last several updates and balance changes. And we do, Falco, have our next match on the books. It is going to be the 2v3 seed for winter semifinals, a cute team versus Not For Radio. Looks like a cute team with a nearly perfect ladder portion, 10-1, only losing to the aforementioned Ziphius.
Yeah, they're coming into this very, very strong. Again, we mentioned that 2 of their members did make it to the semifinals in week 1. They're hoping to push it a little bit further than this, Zach. Of course, they're going to have a tough matchup this time, and of course, you know, thinking later down the road, they don't want to do that quite yet. They just want to get this match done first, so they are looking forward to it.
And K-Bot looking at Not For Radio, a team that finished 3rd there, having 3 players that are from a team called Disguised, and then a 4th from another team called Leveling Up. Seems like this might be the team that you could see a Hydra come out of, which I know is somewhat unheard of, specifically the Torrance Hydra Splatling for the player that I think is Tyria's wife, and then Toto as sort of their support player with Nzaps and Splattershot Juniors and even Splatter Shots abound. Kagome being a Tetra Dualies player, and then to round it out, I believe Dreamer won on maybe even that Pro Frozen again, the Splash-O-Matic, or once again the Nzap. So seems like a pretty well-rounded composition of more supportive players and more aggressive players that can play either that frontline Slayer position or that backline anchor role.
You know, Zach, I just want to reiterate, kind of in part going back to an earlier point I was making, but as you were talking about the potential different weapons we could see, there's no wrong answer in terms of what weapon to play when you're first starting out to compete in Splatoon 3. You can make a lot of different weapons work at any level of competition as long as you have a dedicated plan and as long as you have teammates that are on the way with you and are all on that same wavelength in terms of how best to try to attack. So some of those more interesting weapon selections that you don't often hear from are just further proof to the point that you can make a lot of different strategies work here in Splatoon 3.
Some of what I love about the way the Splatoon 3 North American League seasons and the Sunday scrims also play out is that you can find a team as a solo, you can find a team as a duo, trio, you can already have a squad put together, you can even be a team of 5 and have one player be your dedicated substitute player and join up with either of these events and see large amounts of fun to be had for at least the several hours of the latter portion, and then for the Sunday scrim playing rounds and rounds, waves and waves, I should say, of Salmon Run over and over. And Falco, I know you are not only a community member, but you're someone who has worked really hard to build up the community within Splatoon 3, and so you, I would consider an expert in bringing more casual or players that are interested in competitive into the scene.
It's a lot of fun, and I think to K-Bot's point is the weapon choices that these players choose. You can look up to a specific player. They play this weapon. They only play 1, 2, or 3 weapons, but there are really no wrong choices. Number one, if you enjoy playing that weapon, that is the number one most important rule of the game too. And there's just a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of different ways to play. And I think that is what makes this so exciting and makes this so fun, especially going into the preseason too. This week we might be seeing a lot of weapon choices that we don't typically see out of other teams that we might be seeing later on, who are waiting until the points really, really matter and they want to grind that ladder and try and get all of their games in. So it's a lot of fun to see it now, and I know we're going to see more in the future.
And K-Bot, as a coach yourself, I definitely will want to get your opinion on this. We do have our first stage and mode coming in. We will see a return to zones. So just came off of zones, going to start this one out with zones. I feel like that's a pretty typical choice, and I believe Hagglefish was the pick for the stage. So we'll go ahead and get your analysis on if this is a more usual pairing or an interesting pairing for Hagglefish than we saw earlier with Rainmaker.
I would say the average competitive Splatoon player is going to be much more comfortable on zones on Hagglefish than they might be on Rainmaker on Hagglefish. And a large part of that is how the stage is laid out. The zone is kind of a natural border in that middle area that's already elevated from the rest of what's going on around it. And so you're already jockeying for position on any mode, let alone Splat Zones, where it's more evident and self-apparent that you're doing so. And so I think the less you have to actually go into the opponent's side of the stage here, the better overall it's going to be for players feeling more comfortable. But one of those key places in Hagglefish are those side flanks, those channels on both sides of the stage, where anyone with a shorter range weapon can leap out and cause some chaos on your backlines if you're not careful. So really excited to see how this one plays out, especially with some of these players that played in last week's event. Should be a fun one here for sure.
Let's get into game number 1 at Splat Zones on Hagglefish Market. Gotta shout out Czar once again on the spec cam for this one. Game number 1 of our winter semis between Acute Team and Not For Radio. We saw Goliath and Silver last week there. Falco, what are we seeing from their side as well as from the opposite team here?
Yeah, I'm looking at that Comet's Octobrush in particular with the Kraken and Auto Bomb. That's not a weapon that we see come out very often, and we talked about the Hydra as well coming out too. So that is going to be another choice as well, and right now Not For Radio quickly just waiting for the right moment to use that Reef Slider, gets a double, trying to wiggle their way forward, but Riv is going to take them down. So that was a fantastic double pick there for Not For Radio. Acute Team trying to find a way to break back in.
Beautiful execution on the Reef Slider as well as the Big Bubbler there. Wouldn't normally maybe think of Big Bubbler as being something you'd want to bring to Splat Zones, K-Bot, but it does help to secure you that area, just as Not For Radio is really securing, at least for the moment, that zone. They give it up just in a flip to Acute Team, who steals a couple points off of it.
But especially that big bubbler on something like a Hydra Splatling, where you're able to set that up, and then you have so much range to further your area and sphere of influence in the game overall. If they can get this big bubbler set up and their Hydra Splatling player in a good position, they can have a great deal of influence on the stage. The thing they'll have to watch out for is Goliath's Kraken that comes right back in and tries to wreak havoc.
That's that Comet's Octobrush moving around in the proverbial moat behind the area of the zone. We see Tyria's wife here on that Hydra Splatling, puts down the big bubbler, just going to protect the jump. And that's the other facet, Falco, of the big bubbler, is it has that built-in beacon. We're really getting the alliteration out here that allows your teammates to jump through. Tyrius, though, is going to go down as we see a cute team just barely trying to take the zone back. Goliath with yet another Kraken Royale trying to disrupt this not for radio hold.
Yeah, now Goliath is caught in a 2v1. Going to have to try and back up. We'll see if they can get a pick out of it. No, they can, as Kagome is going to trying to use that Reef Slider as well. Not going to get any splats, but a cute team still in control of this zone. We are going to see some of those Tenta missiles land in the zone for Not For Radio. They're going to be able to take some 1 versus 1 Kagome versus Weatherman. That is going to end with both of them going down. So Not For Radio back in the zone. Of course, Tyree's wife using that big bubbler in the zone as well for some defensive mechanism. And now Cute Team's trying to find a way to break back in. And Silver is just really trying to get some picks, touching up on the zone, seeing who they can take care of, but now seeing where they want to hide and wait for members of Not For Radio to try and strike against them.
Yeah, they were so strong in preseason week 1 with the 52 gal. I made the comment of they're basically using a sleeping mask as their headgear, but they seem to have the best vision out of anybody on the field at a lot of times. As Tyrius' wife is somehow going to get away from that Kraken Royale. It's coming right for them, and I think they just barely might have seen them, but they get away. Not For Radio still holding onto this lead with just under 2 minutes left to play, and it seems like Tyrius' wife came on, as you should be as an anchor player, really holding down the area behind the zone to allow their team to come right back to them.
And again, you'll notice Goliath has very limited impact here on that right side. Is going to find one and start to move forward while the rest of the members of the Q team join from the other side. And they've applied the pressure behind the zone where they needed it most for the wipeout. We'll see whether or not a Q team can start running away from this one here. But the wind is in their sails, and they have 2 specials to boot, including this Kraken from Goliath sharking in the ink right there, hiding in the puddle, but is now spotted out. But the Tenta missiles forced to use that Kraken Royale as Kagome is going to use the Reef Slider into the zone, is going to be able to find one. The strikes are coming out, and 2 down for Not For Radio here. 3 down now. A cute team. It's a 1-for-1 actually on the stage at the moment.
Tyrius' wife feels like one of the only constants here as specials get traded back and forth. We haven't even touched on the Slosher, which was one of the top 5 weapons played in the 2025 season of the Splatoon 3 North American League. Toto going to be moving forward with it here and trying to lock down the zone, which is still contested, and that'll be 3 down for Not For Radio. It'll just be the Tetris remaining. Goliath helping to find the final member. That's yet another wipeout, if not a delayed one, Falco, as we see a cute team chipping away at that penalty with just 30 seconds to go.
Yeah, that was huge for a cute team, because with this being their second wipeout and the first one happening when they really needed to try and net some points, this one might finally be the one where they're able to take the lead because they got the wipeout and they're keeping this player advantage right now. They have to watch for a breach side, but 2 are going to go down. Weatherman with that ultra stamp, throwing it, trying to get Tyree's wife or Toto. It is not going to work. 5 seconds left, but a cute team holding onto the zone. Not For Radio finally able to break into it. We are going into overtime, Zach.
Breaking is the key word. A cute team finally breaking that Not For Radio stronghold, but stronghold is the word that is needed here for Not For Radio, as they need to hold it down once again. Big Toto allowed to move forward here as Dreamer. They're basically just playing the front of this zone. A cute team trying to range them out. Riv allowed to get that wave breaker up, and that will help to be the catalyst. Not For Radio, it looks like, had some specials in reserve or had just built them up, but it's too little too late, K-Bot, as we see a sad triple ink strike shot right on top of the zone, not able to come through. And a cute team taking game 1.
I think the key there in that game, Zach, for a cute team was the slight adaptations that they were able to make between like a span of a minute. In one instance, a cute team has control of the zone. They have both their Killer Whale and that Kraken Royale, but they instantly get spotted out by missiles on the other side. They're forced to burn those specials right away and are not able to set up the most effective defenses as a result. Their opponents come right back in. They're able to cap the zone. But the second time around, it felt like they were a little more prepared for what the attack could be, led in part by that Reef Slider, immediately met with the Ultra Stamp, opens up that door and shuts down the potential for a retake from their opponents. A Q team, I think, played and utilized their specials a little better in that second ending play, and that's what allowed them to come out on top and hold the zone for just long enough.
And Falco, to K-Bot's point of these little micro swaps and changes, we saw a couple of moments that could be potential turning points. That delayed wipeout, that double right before the Ultra Stamp was thrown, some of the play in overtime. Was there any sentiment or plays in that first game that really stuck out to you as why a Cute team was able to take this one from Not For Radio?
Well, I mean, what K-Bot said about all those adaptations too, I think they realized more quickly that we can't just post up in one spot and try and make sure that this is our territory, because with splat zones, you're repainting the same area over and over again. You're going to build up your specials more quickly. I think a special may have come out once every 5 seconds or so, and all of them were displacement specials. You have the Ultra Stamp, you have the Kraken Royale, you have the Tenta missiles, you have something that's going to make you move. So they realized quickly enough, they're like, hey, we always have to be on the move. We can't just get ourselves comfortable and make sure that we're owning this territory. We need to be more flexible. And yeah, a Cute team, especially with the 2 wipeouts they had, they adapted much more quickly.
And you have, similar play styles where both of the Splatlings are trying to set up on the 10th, that uninkable area, use that high ground. But on the one hand, you have the Hydra that's going to be outranging, but you also have this Order Splatling replica that's going to be just pumping out tons and tons of ink. They have their sub, their sprinkler that's able to put it out. They have their main weapon that's able to put it out. So 2 different play styles for a weapon class that's aiming to do similar things on that stage. And for the rest of the team, they're essentially trying to shark around, maybe do some flanking. That turned out to be a pretty pivotal tactic, and we saw some very interesting, for example, from TZS in week number 1. A lot of their flanks from players like Kraken Mayor ended up doing great work when they were able to get behind, and some of the weapons we're seeing are in that similar class. Brushes, for example, able to do that quite well. And it looks like K-Bot, we're going to tower control next. So this theme of playing tower control in game 2 might start to become one as we go once again to that more metered mode.
Well, we'll see whether or not that is the case. Interesting to hear the choice of tower control, as again, in my analysis earlier, I kind of claimed one team is probably the slower team, one team's quicker team. Well, I would have expected, if you were a Cute team, you would have thought yourselves as the quicker team. So picking tower control, maybe they want to get it done and out of the way, or think they have another strategy or something that can counteract some presence of a Hydra Splatling, especially on some of these longer range open sight lines of ShipShape Cargo Company. It'll be interesting to see whether or not they have an answer, or what adaptations they might be choosing, or even what tools they're using at their disposal and how they use those. For example, I am expecting to see that Kraken Royale get answered exclusively for that Hydra Splatling in an answer to displace it, if it is true that Callias sticks with that variant.
And Falco, ShipShape, not one of the stages that we had available to us in the 2025 season. Crab Leg is, I guess, the stage that I would liken most to it, and that one was rather popular for tower control among 1 or 2 other modes. So any insights you think for this particular stage and mode combination?
Yeah, a lot of level surfaces, mainly 2 levels if I can think of it. So again, I think your backline players, maybe your Splatlings, if we see a Charger come out, they're going to want to try and make sure they have a clear vantage point on the tower. Now, if you're a weapon like a dually player, you're going to want to really try and take advantage of all those nooks and crannies and make sure you're popping out from behind the wall to try and take out your opponents.
Let's take a look at game 2 here and the weapons that are being brought out. We are going to have the Luna Blaster Neo appear once again. And on the opposite side of things, pretty consistent loadout from Not For Radio. Dreamer still going to be on that Pro Frozen. And the Tetris K-Bot, again, something that we're not very used to, but can be very devastating in the right hands.
can be devastating, but now, like we just saw, little rock, paper, scissors between two special weapons. There's now two Ultra Stamps on the other side for Acute Team that Reef Slider will have to contend with if that is, in fact, the choice. And Goliath here on this Luna Blaster Neo is going to be able to pop up and just continue to poke over top of this ledge, make sure that this Hydra Splatling can't get set up, utilize its long range, and buy some extra time for Acute Team, who is already snowballing this game towards their opponent's side.
Yeah, this one getting to the penultimate checkpoint here is Riv trying to lock it down. You do typically want your longer range players dancing on top of the tower to make sure that they can hold it down. Goliath trying to find anyone, but Dreamer1 going to find the pick instead. They are going to be the last one standing in the 52, the last one up for Acute Team. So it's a 1v1, and it's going to be a special expended to see if they can displace Dreamer1, and it will work for the moment as Falco, that allows Goliath to get right next to the tower and get the direct onto Tyreus White.
Yeah, that was a good comeback, but I was going to say that was great for Dreamer. They were the first person who was trying to challenge that checkpoint, and they never went down. They were able to hide and protect themselves a little bit and just get the person on the tower right after it got to the checkpoint, but again, no further than that 15 mark. So props to Dreamer for staying alive, but with all that being said, Acute Team is back at it. Tower barely went to mid right now, but Acute Team quickly getting a lot of that yellow ink in front of the tower as well.
Doing a great job of maintaining stage control. They are going to lose their 52, but it's a 3v2 in their favor as Kagome trying to find anyone on top of the tower. Dreamer1 will fall at the hands of the Splatling once again. Tyreus Wife looking for a Splatling v Splatling battle, but they're not going to find their opponent as they had gone down as well. K-Bot, it is effectively going to take a knockout here. 4 for that push to the tower. Going to be pretty tough to beat with anything else.
And again, it's really going to require them to slow down the pace of play, because even still, as Acute Team comes back in from spawn, Silver is rushing towards their spawn location here and continuing to be a nuisance. Hey, look at me, I'm over here. Pay no mind to how close the tower is getting to your side of the stage as it starts marching on forward. Silver continues to stay alive and survive, will end up getting taken down, but even still, more time off the clock that Acute Team is chipping away, and less time that Not for Radio is building up that consistent pressure and presence they need to take back control of the stage.
And 2 points allowing them to maintain that pressure in addition to their aim. The Flow Aura State allowing them to place ink at their feet, and using their special allows their ink tank to refill, meaning they don't have to waste time being in the ink and recovering it, as we see another wipeout Falco from Acute Team. There's still a minute 50 left, and it's looking like Acute Team could still have a knockout under their belt.
Yeah, I think Not for Radio is realizing they're not winning their 4 versus 4 fights. They're going to have to try and come up with something else, and that's why we see some of their players flanking, putting themselves in positions that they typically aren't used to being and making riskier plays. And it's really hard to find a win-win situation, especially when you're fighting a player like Weatherman, who's able to get all of these snipes, especially in their aura state. So with that, Acute Team gets the wipeout, gets the knockout as well, and is going to go up 2-0.
That is the cherry on top for a team that, look at the stage control that they have. I mean, that is as emphatic as it gets. Maybe not time-wise like we saw in that first match, K-Bot, but definitely what you want to see for arguably, I think, the first time that we've seen Shipshape Cargo Co. on stream here.
Yeah, and I think the largest thing out of that game for Acute Team, you mentioned it there, looking at the overhead at the very end of the stage, that yellow ink presence was there the entire game. No matter where you looked, there was enough ink down on the stage for members like Elias, like Silver, and like Weatherman to run around and take care of business. And that is exactly what you want your heavy Splatling to be doing, right? As long as Riv is putting down that consistent ink and laying the foundation and groundwork for that extra maneuverability that those aggressive players can have, Riv is doing their job and playing it to a T. And I think it's a key part of the success. If I am the other side right now, I need to find a way to limit that potential ink output, combat it with our own, or otherwise find a way to displace it, because that is the core backbone. And I think the second that you're able to take that out, you'll start seeing some of those members play a little too aggressively without that additional ink support. So I really think that's where some of these resources need to be targeted towards.
And Falco, for Not for Radio, to carry on with a point that you mentioned during that second game, which is they're not winning the 4v4 battle. So they need to create opportunities that are outside of that. The three modes that we have left are arguably the three more volatile modes possible in Clam Blitz, Rainmaker, and Turf War. Is there any one of those that you hope a Cute Team goes to out of necessity, as this will be regardless a Cute Team's last chance to pick the mode? And can you gear that toward a stage pick that will benefit you in getting some of those not 4v4 or not 1v1 matchups?
Well, the only ranked mode that we haven't seen, Clam Blitz, I'm looking forward to that one in particular if we do come across it. But Clam Blitz is a little bit different because it takes the entire stage to play the game. It's not really focused around one objective, such as a splat zone in the middle, a tower that's on a path, or a Rainmaker that's being carried. And then, of course, you have Turf War, which a lot of players consider a more condensed version of Splat, or a more shortened version of splat zones. So when you're not winning your fights in a mode, I don't know if I would really want to go to Turf War. I know I also know that they don't get to choose the mode, but it's going to be interesting to see what a Cute Team is going to choose.
And it does seem like we will not yet get to take a look at the two modes that have not been on today. We go back, K-Bot, to Rainmaker here, and it's going to be Robo Ramen, our first look at that stage in today's top 8. But as of last week, it did appear to be a relatively popular choice among the teams.
I think one of the reasons for that, Zach, is that even though you might anticipate things are going to play out with a lot of these different levels and how complicated the map geometry is, at the end of the day, a lot of what this stage boils down to is a straight shot across the middle of the stage, right? And the second that you continue to just storm forward and have those resources, dumping them down on that path that you want to take, that's going to be the key for victory here. And I think potentially with a little more condensed and having to worry a little less about what's happening on your sides could play to the favor here of Not for Radio, keeping things in front of them, protecting that Hydra splat lane at all costs, and making sure that it can get set up and apply that pressure out into the rest of the stage.
And Falco, it's a bit of a catch-22. Yes, there are pedestals that you need to plant the Rainmaker on. No, there is not a set path to get to any one of those pedestals. And with a stage that has basically a dedicated high ground and a dedicated low ground, where do you set up to where you can control the chaos that can happen at either level?
Yeah, it's not common that players will use the low ground towards their advantage, but if you're able to do so, that is definitely going to be key. Now, will we see the Rainmaker take the low ground? Probably not, unless they're forced into that position. But I'm thinking of a lot of these players who like to shark up some of these walls, strike a player. If you have an Ultra Stamp that you deploy right before you do that, that's another good way to get some picks, maybe a double or so, but we'll see if that happens in this game.
A Cute Team looking to cement the sweep here against Not for Radio. It's game 3, Rainmaker on Robo Ramen. K-Bot seeing a lot of the same, although Kagome over to the 96 gal, and that's going to give us our first look, I believe, at the Ink Vac special.
The Ink Vac is something that a lot of players have been favoring as of late, especially on Rainmaker, and you've seen it come in highlight reels on Rainmaker multiple times over, where that Ink Vac can provide a protective shield almost for the Rainmaker to get a couple of extra points on the board. Looks like here early, it is going to be a Cute Team taking down this first checkpoint, but as the Ink Vac comes out, we'll see if Not for Radio can continue marching forward, but you already see a Cute Team is hiding, playing very smart here to try to stay alive.
And this is a noticeably closer first pedestal than on other stages. 70 points is what you get if you reach it, where on other stages you can get maybe to even 60 or 62. Without that there, they continue on into the 30s and the 20s. Now moving forward is Riv, and Riv still alive somehow, makes it all the way to 8, Falco, before finally going down.
Yeah, and that was actually huge thanks to Goliath, because they were the ones who were waiting right behind that checkpoint, able to just shark and splat players with that Octo Brush too without going down, guiding the way, pushing a cute team all the way to 4. Now, Not For Radio, they're sitting in a better position than they had before, especially with this Rainmaker set and a one-player advantage. They're going to have to worry about this paint that was in mid. I say that, but now it's going to be popped, and Kagome trying to lead some of the way with the ink back, but Weatherman there trying to get that snipe. Weatherman stays alive. However, 3 members are going to go down on Not For Radio. That is going to be a wipeout now for a cute team. They're going to pick up right where they left off.
Yeah, Riv being escorted by Silver there, who's going to use that 52 gals Killer Whale 5.1. They have to back off just a bit. They see Toto trying to use that left-hand side overhang. Being patient, as you can see, their health is quite low. Silver seeing if there's anywhere where that they can go. They will lose the Rainmaker, but that will not stop the Octobrush from getting in their face. That's the combination, K-Bot, that tag team of Goliath and Silver that have been tearing it up in both events so far.
What I think you're going to see from a cute team is, because they are trying to be the quicker paced team, they're going to just keep attacking. They're going to keep picking up the Rainmaker. They're going to keep trying to push it, and they're going to keep sending 2 players towards Not For Radio spawn points and just try to keep them in their own way. Sometimes the best defense is just an even better offense. That's exactly what a cute team is trying to do here as they continue pouring resources towards this checkpoint and pushing for it. Looks like they're not able to get it just yet, but with 3 members still up, there is still a chance here.
How often do you see a Rainmaker carrier able to get a flow or a state? Something that was usually reserved for the ones protecting the Rainmaker as opposed to the Rainmaker carrier themselves, as Kagome needs to stay alive there. They will go down. They had the ink back at the ready. We saw them in the early portion of the game able to jump back to their spawn point, and Weatherman Falco just barely able to get out using a weapon in the Wiper that was quite popular in the 2025 season, but wasn't really seen as much in the early portions of this one.
Yeah, we're not seeing it as much, but let's not discredit with how well they are playing this weapon. And I want to touch up upon how a cute team really has been playing this game. They're playing it knowing that our plays here are very risky. With each push, we might not get the knockout, but guess what? We are putting so much pressure on Not For Radio. We're holding on to this Rainmaker for 30 seconds, and that's 30 seconds that Not For Radio can't pick up this Rainmaker. So as long as we can just keep control of this, even if we're not going to get the knockout, we can keep getting splats, we can keep control, and then we can get the win just with 1 minute remaining.
K-Bot, I have to bring it to your point. We're about to have a minute left on the board. No successful pushes yet for Not For Radio. At what point can you stop playing defense, this just onslaught that a cute team is bringing them, and when is it finally your turn to push forward?
It's near impossible because a cute team is being consistently relentless. You always have to pay mind to what's going on the other sides of the action. And right now, these consistent pressure points are just causing too many cracks in the armor to find full resources they can push forward with. They're going to commit 2 specials here to take control of the middle of the stage, but Goliath comes back in from behind with the Octobrush, takes down the Hydra Splatling, and 2 are down in mid right now for Not For Radio with 15 seconds left to play. This is still looking dire.
These are the exact flanks that we worried about. Under 10 seconds left to go. Not For Radio did get it to 90, but they're going to need a lot more than that. Dreamer, though, getting the full aura state. They're going to plant it on the pedestal here, and that will force an overtime, but they're going to have to push forward and break this Rainmaker shield. It's a 3v2 as Tyria's wife is helping to break it with the Hydra, and they will be the one to carry the Rainmaker, hopefully for them, to victory. They back up a little bit, but they face a bit of heavy resistance as their team desperately trying to keep the shorter range weapons from a Q team at bay. And what a throw on the Ultra Stamp that will help to lock things down. It will be a sweep for a cute team as they move on to the winners finals here, K-Bot.
Fantastic play from a cute team, continuing to keep up that offensive pressure for the majority of the game, wearing time off the clock, as Falco mentioned. And then there at the very end, able to regroup, have enough ink down and build up those specials, and then commit those specials to make the final play as soon as your opponents lose advantage. You know, one of the things I was thinking in that short term is, while yes, Not For Radio had 2 players that were down and respawning, that was really their best opportunity to find any kind of an advantage, and they weren't really successfully able to capitalize on it, kind of playing on the back foot, waiting for their teammates to respawn. But the moment that you give a cute team a little more room, they're going to take it from you and they're going to start rushing you straight back down. It's exactly what they did, preventing that Rainmaker from going much further past that check.
With another match in the books, let's go ahead and take a look at the updated bracket to see how things are shaping out. And it's going to be 2 more 3-0 performances here, as Xiphius is going to match a cute team with a 3-0 victory over C4K, sending C4K into the losers portion of the bracket and setting up, Falco, a winners finals between Xiphius and a cute team. And I know you've been mentioning this consistent record that Xiphius has been putting out. No game losses on the day so far. They add another 3 to their total.
Yeah, make that 28 wins in a row, going up against a cute team. By the way, these two teams did face each other in their second round, well, Xiphius' second round, rather, defeating them 2-0. This is a match I definitely was looking forward to. Of course, we didn't really get a good glimpse at how those latter matches went. They could have been knockouts, they could have been overtime wins. We'll never know, but I'm excited to see how winners finals is going to pan out.
And K-Bot, one more time to you here. I want to talk quickly about Not For Radio again, because we will see a cute team in our winners finals as they go down to the losers portion of the bracket. This game 3 looks like their strongest game so far with that final push. Anything that they can take from that and use as momentum, even in what amounts to a sweep of a loss, as they try to make it back through the loser side.
So the important thing I think to remember is every match is a new match, and you have to try to reset your mental as you get into it. Even if you might not be paired against opponents that are quite equally skilled, or you even think you're outclassed, doesn't matter. There's a reason we play the games at all here, Zach. And I think any team that has a level of confidence in the way they're able to play, and certainly I think Not For Radio does, given that they didn't switch around their weapons at all for all 3 of those stages. Seeing them come back together here and trying to slow down the pace against other teams that might also be already playing a little slower, maybe it'll give them a little more confidence, build it back up, and then come back a little strong.
Well, it's already been an exciting day of Splatoon 3 action so far. We've got a little segment for you coming up called What Happens Next, so don't go anywhere. We will have winners finals for you in just a moment.
Hello everybody and welcome back. We're going to be playing a super fun game today, and I, your host Lily, am joined by Popgun, Falco, and Siren. We're going to be playing What Happens Next today. And the rules of this game are pretty simple. We're going to show you a short clip, and then we're going to pause the clip at a pivotal moment, at which point we'll show you 4 answers on screen, A, B, C, and D. You pick the correct one, we'll play the rest of the clip, and we'll see who got it right. All right, let's roll clip number 1.
Hey, I spy a bubble coming out from the cactus, Zach, and we saw this earlier. That was what got them into this 43-point...
All right, so what happens next? We have our multiple choice answers up on screen. A, B, C, D. What do you think? Getting those answers locked in. Seeing if there's anything going on here. How we feeling? Feeling confident?
Yes.
All right, let's roll the rest of that clip.
Position in the first place. Rome making a mad dash for that power climb, and it's just going to be Ori who to jump in there. 20...
And the answer is D. Congratulations, Siren and Falco.
I don't think that was fair. I think those two commentated that match.
Well, with that said, let's roll clip number 2.
Perfect position for something like a blaster to just wreak havoc, but if the blaster isn't alive...
All right, there's your clip number 2. We're going to be posting our options here, A, B, C, D on screen, but what happens next in this tower control overtime? It looks like we're a little spread out this time. No duplicate answers on the clock, and let's roll the rest of that clip.
They can't wreak the havoc that they need. Basil deciding to stand her ground here, deciding to face off against the blaster of Moonlight, trying to just draw some attention.
The correct answer goes to Falco.
Yes.
Letter C is our answer for that one. Unfortunately, Popgun, Siren, still not quite there. We had A for Popgun, D for Siren. Just a little off the mark, but getting close. We have a clear leader so far.
As soon as I saw the shadow, I was like, he's got to be doing something. He's going to be taking the lead and getting the win.
Look, I had so much faith in Basil. They had been hitting the craziest shots all season long, so I was ready for some more there.
I'm not going to lie, I wasn't paying attention, I just guessed.
And let's roll clip number 3.
Then tries to super jump away, unlike what Hexen did, and instead is going to go down for it. The members of Moonlight still able to...
All right, clip is in. Our multiple choice answers going up on screen. What do you think happens in this Splat Zones overtime? It looks like we have yet another spread across the board. No multiple choice samesies going on here in chat. So let's take a look and roll the rest of the clip.
On this tower that's able to put down a lot, but the rest of them aren't there and putting down the ink on this zone. The overtime does almost end.
And Popgun on the board. That's an additional point. Now up to 1 for Popgun with the correct answer of C. Absolutely nothing happened at the end of the game and overtime expired.
Turns out watching the clip actually helps.
Turns out if you pay attention, you can get some points in class. We'll see what clip number 4 has in store.
Before you potentially pick up the Rainmaker, Hexen's going to be using that crab. Rainmaker finally going to...
So what happens next in this Rainmaker overtime? We're making our way through the modes, make sure everything gets covered and interesting, and we'll have our multiple choice answers up. So it looks like we have our answers locked in, and they're the same across the board. People are either feeling very confident or copying each other's answer sheets. I'm not gonna say which is which just yet, but let's take a look at the rest of this clip and see what happens.
Picked up. Dark is going to go down. It is Dr. Shack carrying it with the Inkback support. This is a moment where they can't take the lead, but no, they're...
And for once, everyone is correct. The answer was B.
That was the only clip I really remember. I'm like, oh, this is what happens, because I remember this game, FT Win versus Fofofo, and it came down to that last Inkback. So I was really confident with my answer, but you guys were too, apparently.
We now have 2 for Popgun, 2 for Siren, and 3 for Falco. And we were on clip number 5, which is our final clip of the night. Let's roll it.
To build up some more specials, they're going to have Killer Whale ready to go. They're going to have to deal with this.
All right, let's get our answers in up on screen, A, B, C, and D. What happens next in this climactic Splat Zones moment? All right, so we're in with all of our answers. Let's roll the rest of the clip.
Stamp and the Ink Strike coming out probably at the same time from FT Win, but this is getting really close here. If Keo can get another splat, they do. So FT Win's going to hold on to the...
Unfortunately, no one got that answer correct. The correct answer is A. So, unfortunately, no points on that last one. However, I mean, maybe it's for the best because it does give us a clear winner. Falco, how does it feel?
I feel good. I knew FT Win won that game, but I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. So I was debating between A and D, but, you know, if I got it wrong, that's fine. I still won.
All right, thanks everybody for playing along at home. How did you do? Let us know.
Well, Falco, congratulations on a win. Why don't you give us a little impromptu victory speech or assessment of how that went and how fun that segment was for you?
Oh, you know, I talked to Popgun and Siren afterwards. We were mouthing to each other. No, it was all great. But no, it was a lot of fun, and it just goes to show how much key moments we remember or don't remember from the previous season, but we were highlighting all of our favorite moments, and half of them were shown in that segment.
Well, I hope you at home enjoyed that. Getting back to business here, we have our winners finals going on next. It is Ziphius, who we've mentioned is on a generational run, having not dropped a game between the ladder and top 8 portion. And they're going to be taking on the team that we just watched sweep, not for radio, which is a cute team. And K-Bot, the stage and mode combination is already in. We're trying to complete the bingo board here for Hagglefish as we go to our third mode there of the day with Tower Control.
Tower Control will be interesting here for sure. I imagine Ziphius again picking it to try to slow this down. I'm expecting a Q team to be one of the quote-unquote quicker teams, and again, just consistently fighting, keeping up that pressure, approaching from those flanking angles off of the sides of this stage. And I'm expecting Ziphius to play a little more traditionally, marginally so anyway, with perhaps a little more range and trying to limit the presence of some of those very hyper short range picks of those others.
And Falco, you've mentioned a bit about Xiphius and their record and what we can look forward to with their team and with their run. You know, we talked about how we could see a Dynamo Roller, we could see a Blaster, Ink Brush, some heavy Splatling. What about compositions like that, or their play screams that they would just run through teams with no games dropped to this point?
It's really hard to say. It's all about execution and it just really being comfortable with the weapons that you are known for and what you play. I don't think it's a built of we all play these weapons and we're so used to them, but more of how well that they just specialize and are great with them. One other player, Xiphius, actually isn't playing today. They're at a different event, which is why 2 members from DPS only are joining them for this. So, but no matter how you get to 28-0, that is nothing to sweat. We don't see it a lot in basketball, so to see it in Splatoon is just as incredible.
These are the records, even with preseason, that you want to build up, because not only are they confidence boosters, but they show that you can go into the pressure cooker of a scenario that top 8 is after several hours of ladder play, not dropping any matches, not dropping any games, and proving that you've still got it even with some downtime. But a cute team, K-Bot, looking to show that they can give them at least their first game loss of the day, and their play in that last match proved that they may have what it takes.
They very well may, and I imagine as the day has gone on, they start feeling themselves a little more. I think this is a very momentum-based team where a lot of them is going to be based on their level of confidence and zero hesitation when they're taking some of those very aggressive plays and potentially risky, but also very, able to pay off quite significantly for the team. So we'll see whether or not they're able to do it. Also worth noting, of course, that it was a cute team, or some of their members, that played in the event last time around. So they've been to this similar stage before. They've played this long as recently as a week ago.
Well, we'll do a quick pivot on the mode. It's going to be Splat Zones instead, still at Hagglefish Market as we get set for game 1 of Winners Finals between Xiphius and a cute team. Shout out, as always, to Czar doing the excellent work on the Spec Cam and Falco. First look at Xiphius' composition. What are we seeing between the teams?
Well, we pointed out what the heavy was probably going to play. Guess what? It is the heavy Splatling. We call it the vanilla heavy Splatling here. They're going to get a quick 2v2, but now finally getting one down on Acute, and that's going to be a wipeout with just 2 players from Xiphius alive. It is going to be Jose, the first one pushing up with the blaster in the very offensive bubble to help protect themselves, allow Jay to try and push up as well. But Xiphius still getting the splats as well too, so this is going to be very important for a cute team to try and figure out how they want to push forward. It's going to be starting with Goliath's Kraken here, but the question is what is going to happen afterwards after the Kraken goes away.
Yeah, I think Goliath's doing a good job of knowing that Kraken Royale is going to run out as they lose 3 members, not even making it anywhere close to the zone as Xiphius continues to tick it down. Jay moving away using that Killer Row 5.1 and the exceptional mobility that the Ink Brush has to offer. They will not have the range to get splats, but K-Bot, they are in the single digits at this point.
It's been beautiful coordination so far from Xiphius. They go a few members down here, and it will be a cute team coming back in to at least cap the zone and apply that critical penalty, meaning that Xiphius won't be able to win the game on the spot any longer, and instead will have to continue fighting on, which buys more time for a cute team to try to create more chaos and more havoc across the board here. And we'll see whether or not they're able to do that and get this timer down to as low as possible.
We have seen in the Splatoon 3 North American League one team get into the single digits and then immediately basically get 100-0'd on the zone as a cute team is going to go past the halfway mark, but they do lose their 52 and their wiper, and now they're Splatling as well. Jay going to move forward as Goliath's only reprieve is the fact that they are in that invulnerable Kraken Royale. However, they are marked, so they're going to have to back off and ensure their survivability as they get beset upon Falco by another special, and Xiphius locking down that territory once again.
Yeah, Ziphius taking over control now. They had 73 penalty points that they are trying to get through, and a cute team did a great job. Speaking of great job, Jose, once again, not shy about where they want to position themselves to try and push up. Again, another offensive bubble. Not even going to bother to use it. Just says, you know what? I'm going to use this for my teammates. I'm going to go off and try and do my own thing. Jay's going to be jumping out. Weatherman now using that Ultra Stamp to try and get some players. And it is a big skirmish here in mid, but a cute team finally able to maybe take control. Not quite yet. A Goliath is now going to be trying to take out Droid, able to do so, but going out themselves. All this happening, a cute team still in control of the zone.
Yeah, tough for a cute team who you would have hoped would have gotten that zone locked down a little bit quicker. Ziphius, you know, they were waiting to see if they could get Goliath down there, who's been in that Kraken Royale multiple times, and be heavy backing off. We've seen so many Splatling players, K-Bot, and even just any Anchor player use these side gratings, which are so small, but provide great coverage of both the alleyway and the zone that they're next to.
And the other thing I think to comment on just at large is the V-Heavy and Droid's positioning here and their ability to recognize when a fight is not going their way and start backing away. You commented, Zach, that it feels like a Q team hasn't been able to fully cap the zone, get the momentum rolling, and have a firm controlled hold. That's in no small part because V-Heavy and Droid are doing so well at staying alive, being a slight annoyance, and not quite letting a cute team have all of the territory that they might want otherwise. It's been really nice to see this pair team up.
And you'll notice Goliath trading special for special. They're using the Kraken Royale to get rid of the wave breakers. We see Jose for, I think, at least twice in this game now getting into that flow aura state. They've been so devastating on this blaster. I mainly heard talk about the custom blaster, Falco, going into this one, but the vanilla blaster doing great work as Ziphius getting down to 10 penalty points. They'll reclaim the zone again. Droid trying to spot somebody out on the Dynamo Roller. Still in contention, but Ziphius with just 37 seconds left in a good position so far.
Yeah, they might try and get this. There's still some pressure from a cute team now with not the player advantage that they had before. It's not going to be too late. We see the Kraken Royale and the Killer Whale try and come out. Unfortunately, those two don't really paint very well. Ziphius getting this great win. Of course, they had a very, very strong opening push with the cute team trying to come back, able to put some points on the board, apply some pressure onto Ziphius. But in the end, Ziphius held strong, I think, especially with the thanks to Jose and how confident they were with the blaster.
It's a knockout in game one that's going to give Ziphius a 1-0 lead in the match over a cute team. The loser going down to the loser side of the bracket. They will, of course, have their chance at redemption. But K-Bot, some early prowess shown from Ziphius, proving why they've had such a dominant run today, but also some signs of life from a cute team with that tag team of offensive players in Goliath and Silver that we've seen do very well so far today.
Yeah, a lot of commendable play to come out in that last game. I think the first thing that stood out to me, Zach, was even that first opening play where Ziphius has control of the zone. It was so coordinated and plotted out. All right, you go there. I'm going to approach. We'll send the brush player further forward, and all three members were covering all the entire wide drop that is that side of Hagglefish Market. There was nowhere for a cute team to infiltrate and surprise, and they were able to keep all of their opponents in front of them. That is key and critical for the team trying to play the slower play style. And I think, like I said, that level of positioning and coordination where you know confidently as a team you have all of your bases covered is exactly what a cute team fears the most. It's almost like the firewall, right? They're trying to infiltrate on one of these sides, take some advantage out of a vulnerability in where their opponents aren't looking, but Ziphius has had all of their bases covered defensively, and even when things start turning south, like I mentioned during the game, they're able to back away, keep a little bit calmer, and make sure their opponents don't ever fully get set up. That is the most critical component here, and I think Ziphius especially has a lot to be proud of defensively with how they're playing today, and we can see why. They're now 29-0.
Well, for real this time, we're going to tower control, and this time, Falco, it will be on Mako Mart. And the thing that scares me the most is being on the losing end of another push on this stage and mode combination that happens in under a minute. Any chance we see another less than a minute win on this stage and mode?
It's possible, especially we mentioned how strong blasters are on tower control, and of course we're talking about Jose here for this game that just happened, so anything is possible. Xiphius has great map awareness too, knowing where they want to position themselves, knowing which fights to pick. I think they're going to try and take full advantage of this stage.
Getting into game number 2, tower control on Mako Mart with Xiphius up 1-0 over Acute Team and K-Bot. I do see Weatherman swapping off of that Splatana Wiper and over to that sticker Splatana, although in the first 10 seconds, they've already departed from the mortal plane.
Yeah, I think it's no surprise here to see a little less emphasis on the Ultra Stamp and more emphasis on a special that can more easily clear out the tower in that Booyah Bomb. And it's probably the largest reason why you might see the swap off for Weatherman. But as we see this one play out here, Jay's going to continue running the tower past the first check. But in reality, there's not a lot of presence Xiphius has. And here's Goliath. See exactly what I was talking about. If they can jump out from the side and cause some havoc, disrupts the general play, it's exactly where Acute Team thrives.
Silver with an important pick on the Dynamo there. That is a scary weapon to be going up against on the tower, especially when it is so parallel at that height to the charger perch or the overlook where teams might be accruing, kind of filtering to the right hand side of the stage as they come back to respawn. But Falco, the tower, going back to mid here in a reset opportunity for Acute Team, although they've already lost 3 of their members once again, and down goes Goliath to make it a 4th.
Yeah, where Acute Team is really struggling is they can get some of these splats, but unfortunately they're getting splatted at the same time, so they're just never having a player advantage. And with all that happening, it's only going to favor the team who already has the lead and is currently pushing the tower. That is going to be Xiphius. Now, you mentioned taking down Droid. This is the Dynamo Roller user. If you can splat them before they can deploy the Tacticooler, that is going to be huge for Acute Team. But Acute Team still trying to find a way that they can break in. We can see Silver here trying to flank, and Xiphius knows by now too that Acute Team's going to have something else up their sleeve, and that's exactly what Silver's trying to do, and they're the only player who is alive right now. They're going to be going down. Xiphius riding strong, getting past the second checkpoint.
Yeah, and Xiphius just constantly gets reinforcements. Even with the changes to stealth jump in 11.0, they're still able to get back to the tower so quickly, and Jose so devastatingly powerful on this blaster. It just feels like directs and flow aura states left, right, and center. K-Bot, it wasn't the sub 1 minute knockout, but it's a knockout nonetheless as Xiphius goes up 2-0.
I've spent a lot of time so far complimenting both Droid and V-Heavy, but of course it cannot be outstated. The foundation that your anchor players set is only as good as your forwards and aggressive players are able to capitalize on it. And it feels like Jose has been everywhere you look with a blaster shot lined up and ready to go and almost ready to direct so often, which is why you're seeing them pick up that flow aura state and continue to keep up the momentum for this team so often. Even when Jose goes down, there's always an answer that the rest of the team has to compensate. And so this team is playing so well coordinated right now, and it's the reason why they're able to come away with these knockout victories.
And Falco, it in no bad way does it feel like Xiphius has this very cookie cutter standard tried and tested compositional breakdown where they have a Dynamo Roller that not only has the range but is your supportive player and can build up that Tacticooler. They've got the heavy Splatling that just pumps out so much ink, has things like the Sprinkler to paint areas passively. They've got the Ink Brush that does that sharking and flexing and displacement aspect that we need, and then you have the Blaster that just is the tip of the spear, as I like to say, that runs through their opponents and gets direct so often.
Yeah, it's a very dynamic weapon composition, and it's to point out too, this is one of the only teams that's using the base or vanilla version of a lot of their weapons. Typically we see variations upon variations, so these are all weapons that came out at the very beginning of Splatoon 3. They are still sticking with them, and again, just goes to show how tried and true some of these weapons are and how comfortable they are with them too. And I really like the diversity of the weapons that they are choosing as well to kind kind of, you think about it, not a lot of them initially have a lot of paint output, and the Dynamo now has a little bit more too, and it's been showing more and more as more players are opting to use it, but they've really been appearing to be unstoppable.
Well, K-Bot, we go back and complete the trifecta of the 3 modes that we've been seeing so far today. For Game 3, it'll be Rainmaker. This time, though, on a stage that we have not seen today. It has had quite a few moments from both last season and this season in Museum de Alfonsino. Feels like a very fun stage to see Rainmaker and the team setting up sort of on that sideways ramp, that sort of right-hand side area before they make that push, or taking the leap of faith on that box.
I think one of the reasons why Museum de Alfonsino is so fun to watch is you know exactly what's going to happen. You see the build-up in a potential push, you watch them fire their specials, and then it's just a mad dash as far forward as you can get it. That's exactly what this game comes down to, and I think what a lot of us live for while we're both watching and playing Splatoon 3, and it's one of the things that is so fantastic about the game. It's that quick decision-making and thinking that nets victories so often. But the more premeditated you can be with how you elect to use your specials is going to be critical, and that leaves me wondering what kinds of specials we're going to see, or transitions. Probably I would expect a cute team to stick with this double ultra stamp strategy, as that can be enough of a presence for the Rainmaker to have that path forward ahead of it, while also taking down anyone that stands in the way. But on the other side, I don't know, maybe we'll start seeing something like an Ink Fact pop up again that we've seen had success on this stage quite a lot.
And you look at this stage for both Rainmaker and the mode we have yet to see today, Clam Blitz, in addition to Turf War. But for this stage in particular, to your point, K-Bot, it does kind of center around that raised either art installation or a partial spinner that's on that right-hand side near the spawn area of your opponent, where if you have specials like the Booyah Bomb, Triple Ink Strike, which we've seen a little bit today, but it's not been, I would say, in that, upper echelon of recurring specials in areas like the Killer Whale 5.1, we might see that come through. As Falco, we're getting into game number 3. Xiphius trying to maintain that perfect game record. Let's see if anything is shaken up weapon-wise.
Yeah, they're not changing a thing, it looks like, Xiphius at least. And we are going to be seeing the Mint Decavitator come out this time from Silver. They're switching from the Splatana Wiper. The rest of the team sticking with some of the same weapons that they had to use before. So we'll see if this changes the dynamics.
So instead of specials that are going to ink the area in front of them, they're more so going to bunker down and say, all right, let's put a big bubbler down, make sure that our team can get in, and if anyone's gone down, they can jump to the beacon that's within the big bubblers. We see Xiphius making the jump, has the Rainmaker in V-heavy, but does not have a ton of room to maneuver around in. It's a 3v2 in favor of a cute team. They're taking their time, making sure that Jose has an in to get through, and using the indirect shots to keep the enemy team at bay. And K-Bot, finally, Xiphius will drop the Rainmaker at 64.
Dropping the Rainmaker here. Goliath, though, forced to use the Kraken Royale in order to do so, and the Killer Whale 5.1 coming out here as well. So now they only really have that Wave Breaker as a special to utilize on the offensive, and it's not going to be very impactful here, especially as Jake tries to sneak around from behind, but will be unsuccessful in doing so. And a Q team might have an opportunity here with Silver going down early on that top side of the spinner, and now Goliath getting more pressure down so low, which you can see with those HP bars, is going to get taken down and jumped on pretty quickly, meaning that this push feels like it's null and void.
Absolutely love the advent of the HP bars, because you can see like that when we have a heavy v heavy duel just how close it got, as v heavy getting very low but somehow winning that 1v1. They're going to use the big bubbler and the tacticooler pretty early. I think the Dynamo thinking about picking up the Rainmaker and ultimately opting not to. And Falco, it feels like, again, for both Clam Blitz and Rainmaker, sometimes on this stage it kind of devolves into a stalemate in the middle portion of the game.
It really does, but a cute team. Oh, it's going to be Jay who picks it up. I was going to say, Q Team needs to ride this momentum of having a 2-player advantage and just trying to net some points, and it looks like they're finally going to be able to maybe get this off the checkpoint. No, they are able to take the lead, and keep in mind, there's only one checkpoint podium per team on this stage, and a lot of these players will opt to try and get it directly from that middle spinner. So the Q Team had something right up their sleeve to try and get the lead. It's just going to be Riv now, who's alive, trying to get themselves some space, but it looks like Xiphius might be in a good position to try and take the lead back.
Riv, though, getting an important pick on Jose. That's the main player you have to worry about that's going to chase you down. Weatherman getting a couple of shots off on Jose, who's already back, has the buff from that tactical and an up-close and personal splat there onto Silver. Going to get some help from the Ink Brushes. They push forward. Xiphius going to extend their lead to 35, but B Heavy going to get caught out and stopped at 35 as Weatherman unable to pick it up. So still with lots of reinforcements here as the rest of Xiphius is jumping forward. A Q Team nowhere to really jump off the stage with that's close to them, K-Bot. So Goliath will resort to dropping down, and that'll have to be good enough for now.
3 down for a cute team here. Xiphius has plenty of control of this area and is going to be looking to make another push happen. That big bubbler has gone up here. V Heavy electing to go around the left side, trying to have a little more protection, but Droid in a commanding position is going to be forced away as resources have to come out from a cute team in order to displace this. Finally, they will be able to take down the Rainmaker, and now a 2-down situation. Maybe an opportunity here, but Jose is still working this edge of this area and continuing to prevent anything from really getting rolling here for a cute team. Now on this top side, could even continue posing a threat.
That has to be one of the main counters to a player like Jose, who you have to spot out, or they are going to be on top of your team before you know what's hit you. Jay dancing around, but Silver going to help take them down, holding on to this big bubbler with under a minute left to go. That's going to be the only special on the board for either team, as a cute team looking to get something going. This Falco does look like their best chance, though, as 35 not nearly as far as some of the other pushes that we've seen, although Silver may want to back out. We'll see if they end up saving that big bubbler or not. They will use it. Will anyone jump to them? We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I don't think so, as we could see V Heavy was identifying that bubble. And to your point, with it only being 35, you have to break. Again, a cute team just really hasn't had a player advantage other than that one moment with about 3 minutes remaining. So they just can't make the most of this, as Jose is just waiting to try and shark and get a splat here as they're hiding on the spinner. And Xiphius is doing exactly what they need to do right now, which is just maintain control. We don't want to overextend. We want to control this podium here. We don't want to even pick up the Rainmaker. We don't want to be responsible for it. We want to make you the one who's going to have to go out of your way, grab it right now, right as time expires, so we could go up 3-0, and that's exactly what Xiphius does.
What a strategy they employ, is Jose just daring anyone to climb up the walls of that spinner to see if they would pick up the Rainmaker. They do and are immediately punished for it. But what else can you do if you're a cute team? That will mean another sweep, as Xiphius keeps their perfect record both in matches and in games for preseason week 2, and we will see them later in grand finals. Meanwhile, a cute team still in it. They will go down to the losers portion of the bracket, but K-Bot, I think we've seen why Xiphius has been undefeated to this point so far.
Yeah, the level of coordination that they're exhibiting in their play, as I've commented on numerous times, is fantastic. And really, again, it's that ability to cover for each other's weaknesses, right? When one player goes down, how do you respond? Most of the time, it's in the way Xiphius is doing, backing up, continuing to regroup and reclaim some ground that you know confidently you can get to, rather than continue to try to push into a squid disadvantage, right? Anytime you're going into a fight and you're one member down, it's now a 3v4 that you have to try to contend with, and the odds are certainly not in your favor in that case. So like to see this coordinated level of play from Xiphius, covering all aspects of the stage and really shutting down these members of a cute team who have been on rampages after rampages, as we have called out time and again on this broadcast, not able to really pick up that momentum thanks to how tight-knit this group has been working together as a team.
Well, we'll see if we have the bracket for you following that winners finals. We'll actually go to a replay first just to see how dominant Xiphias has been throughout the entirety of that winners finals. Jose, a large part of that. You can see here a cute team already 3 down, and Goliath trying not to stagger themselves. They go all the way back, and the Wavebreaker helping to spot anyone that may be jumping down. In that instance, V Heavy unfortunately not able to make it work, but Falco, it's that consistent pressure, and to your point at the end of that game, not making any mistakes that they don't need to. As we take a look at the bracket following winners finals, it is 3-0 for Xiphias, sending them to grand finals. A cute team will go down automatically to the losers finals and await a chance at revenge. But first, we will go to our losers semifinals next. Of course, we see Honey Badgers has defeated Not For Radio 3-0 to punch their ticket to losers semis, and currently C4K up 2-0 over Inkthis, trying to be their opponent for the Honey Badgers in the losers semis. And Falco, to throw it to you, you mentioned near the end of that game the things that Xiphias was doing, which was not always picking up the Rainmaker. They were very cautious about positioning themselves or actually playing the objective, and more so seemed to care about the overall stage control that they wanted to maintain.
Yeah, it was a 2-minute drill for them, or maybe a 15-second or 20-second drill, but you know what I mean. So they were able to just realize we have a decent lead. We need to make sure we have all of this ink right around us, right by the Rainmaker. We need to make them be the ones who are trying to push forward, risking themselves to try and grab this Rainmaker and extend the lead. And before that, Xiphias did a fantastic job playing the entire stage. Whenever one of their members had the Rainmaker, there were always 2 members pushed up even further trying to get picks to pave the way. So they were taking advantage of the entire stage, especially a lot of the spinners, and I can see a lot of that is probably going to be transferred over into grand finals. They have a bit of a break now while they wait, but I know they're going to get a well-deserved rest.
And K-Bot, again, to that point, we don't often get to see what our teams are doing as they wait for their next matchup. Do you have anything personally that you recommend or have seen work with teams in terms of, do you hop into Anarchy battle? Do you hop into maybe seeing if you can find another team to play scrims, or even play 2v2, something to keep your hands warm while you're waiting for one or multiple matches to conclude before you play again?
Well, I think the first thing you should do, Zach, is set down the controller and take a walk. If you can, go outside if the weather's nice. Genuinely, though, it is so good to help reset your mental before you get right back into things, especially if you're a cute team who still has a little bit of time to wait before they play again. If they're able to sit down, just go take a walk, come back, maybe you go through some hand warmers afterwards when you return, maybe hop into Anarchy or talk strategy with your teammates. Hey, what went wrong there? What were you feeling? And how do we try to make an adjustment within the bounds of what we already know how to do together as a team? Those are probably going to be the more impactful things. But yeah, Zach, I mean, take a walk first. It's a long day of Splatoon for everyone here, and being able to get up for a moment and stretch those legs is important.
I would say good advice in general. Take a walk, hydrate, make sure that you can breathe easy and get that mental reset and get it right where you want it to be, because the tournament, the portion of the bracket marches on, if you will. And Falco, we do have one team out of 2 guaranteed for our losers semifinals, and it's actually a team that we saw lose 3-0 in our winners quarterfinals. And since then, they have 2 straight sweeps. They sweep Smooth Moves 3-0 in the losers round 1, and then in losers round 2, Not For Radio gets swept by them 3-0. So for their team members, Meltdown, Gudra, Astro, and Sylveon, this will be another important test. And looking at some of the weapons that they played, that was the team that had that Dapple Doolies knocked. That was the team that had, again, a weapon after my own heart, the Tri-Slosher Devo, as well as another one of the Dynamo Rollers in Astro's play that we've seen do quite well today overall.
Yeah, Honey Badgers are making the most of their night here after their loss. It's hard to kind of rebound from that, getting 0-3'd, but then to 3-0 consecutively, that's got to feel really good. And of course, it's against teams that we saw, I think they beat a team that then beat them, or there's like a triangle of wins going on somewhere here in this bracket. So it's always hard to predict how well these teams are going to compare against each other. We know Xiphias, of course, without losing a game 31-0. They're kind of at the top. They deserve to be there right now. Again, waiting for which opponent's going to be there too. But yeah, Honey Badgers are doing a fantastic job today, especially with rebounding after that first loss.
Now, K-Bot, here's the kicker. The other match that we're waiting for is C4K being up 2-0 over Inkthis. If C4K in any fashion wins that match and moves on to loser semis, it will be a repeat of the exact winners quarterfinals match that we saw, where C4K was the team that 3-0'd Honey Badgers and sent them down to losers. So this is one of our first instances that we get to see of a potential revenge match where Honey Badgers is going to try and make sure that the past is not repeated.
And in fact, we do get word that C4K did in fact win their match 3-0, and so they'll be up against Honey Badgers. I think if you're Honey Badgers, having seen that your potential opponent was going to be C4K, you had a little bit of time, probably not enough time to get up and go for a walk, but instead enough time to go back and remind yourselves what happened in that first match. What were they playing? What made them successful? And how can we try to adapt to that? Again, knowing what we know now and knowing what we are capable of. One of the things, Zach, as a coach sometimes that I observe is often players will just decide, I'm going to try this thing I've never practiced before, never played in a competitive setting before, but it's going to work here, right? Right? Nah, not really, right? It depends on the strategy, but for the most part, anything that is practiced and you know is going to be more successful than anything you might try to adapt to on the fly. Now, there might have been something that worked on a previous iteration that you could fall back to, or something of the sort there where it's less of a stretch, or again, just a better use of resources and awareness for where your opponents are and how they're trying to play the game. I think those are all of the critical things to take into consideration here while you watch your opponent coming in next.
Now, Falco, here's the tough part. If losing previously in a sweep wasn't the tough part and trying to surmount that as Honey Badgers, C4K, they come into the top 8 as seed 4, which means they are going to get the first mode pick over Honey Badgers, who came in at seed 5. So if you want to control the mode, you're going to have to take a game off of C4K first and then get put into that position of power. You do get to choose the stage, and I'm also in part using this to try and break up the cycle potentially of Splat Zones, TC, and Rainmaker. Would love to see some Clam Blitz and would love to see some Turf War come through, but that has to be, I would think, one of your top priorities, not just winning a game, but winning a game for the specific reason of putting the power in your hands of choosing the next mode.
Yeah, and I'm thinking too, if I'm Honey Badgers, that might be one of the modes I go for, which is Clam Blitz or Turf War. But again, you have to get that win, as you mentioned, and from that first match that we saw too, it wasn't really that close, with C4K just getting some dominant victories one after another. So again, we talked about the uphill battle that Honey Badgers have, but there's more at stake here at this point. It's the loser's bracket. You lose, you're done for the day, you're done for the night. But it's not without saying that Honey Badgers, they still don't have the momentum. They do have the momentum and drive. They don't want to let that go from what they've already accomplished and how they're going to move forward. So they are able to choose the stage. Of course, we are waiting on that game mode that is going to be chosen from C4K. And if you're C4K, you're going to probably stick with one of the modes that just has been working. You're just thinking, all right, we want to get this one over with. We want to move on to the losers finals here. They're going to be choosing Rainmaker here, Zach. So this is, I do like this choice from our standpoint. It's fun to commentate, number one, but because it's a different type of pace from Tower Control or Splat Zones.
And it is no surprise, K-Bot. I think basically these big three that we've seen today are going to be the consistent choice of any team that's had a modicum of success, or at the very least has been sweeping through teams the way that C4K was, especially in that first round. And we're kind of in a potential revenge sandwich, if you will, as we see Honey Badgers trying to get revenge on C4K. Then it will be a new matchup as a cute team. Whichever of these two teams they face, it will be a new match in top 8 at least. And then grand finals, as we mentioned before, a cute team trying to get back to that point to have another shot at taking on Ziphius. So for this match, Rainmaker should be a fun, hectic mode to start us out on, but I will still hold out hope to see either Clam Blitz or Turf War.
Well, you might have to keep holding out that hope for the rest of the night, sir. We'll see how this one plays out. But again, I think our teams right now, especially if you're some of the higher seed teams, you continually win on these 3 modes as they get picked up first. Why would you bother changing it, right? You're not at any real reason to bother considering something else. And I think that's the other thing here too, right? Where thinking about if you are Honey Badgers after that loss earlier. All right, we're playing on Rainmaker again. Obviously, it's where our opponents want to go. How do we pick up that pace of play to our composition's strengths at a higher level? We'll see whether or not they've been able to find an answer and perhaps build up some more confidence in what they've been doing in the past couple matches. That momentum hopefully will continue to carry them forward.
Well, and if I remember correctly, Falco, this was the duel between 3 lower range weapons and 1 sort of mid to long range weapons versus the opposite. It was 3 mid to long range weapons. Then I think a sploosh was
yep.
the one that rounded us out. So this should be, if the compositions are anything similar to what we saw in this winner's quarters, this should be a very entertaining bout.
Yeah, and too, if I'm Honey Badgers, at this point, do you go for a stage that hasn't been seen yet? One that potentially C4K might not be as comfortable with? I'm thinking of Urchin Underpass, for example. That's a stage we don't see very often, but you know, if you're not familiar with it, chances are your opponents are not going to be as well. It typically isn't a stage mode combinations that a lot of players really polish up on. So again, that's just another thing to consider. Is that the best solution? I don't really know, but it's something that you can do to throw a curveball, you know?
There's a couple I would put into the category of relatively common Rainmaker stages that we haven't seen yet today, at least on the broadcast here. Scorch Gorge, definitely one of them I put into that sort of Rainmaker Clam Blitz style stage. Undertow Spillway, definitely for Rainmaker and Clam Blitz, I think 2 come through quite a bit. We have Crablet Capital, that one might be more so in the tower control, splat zones, even Turf War vein. Would, again, love to see Turf War, but should be a good amount of fun here. K-Bot, I think we are going to be getting into this one soon with the next stage, but it should be a pretty fun bout here, as I think Inkblot was the pick that we're going to.
The pick was, in fact, Inkblot. And Zach, what I was hearing out of your rattling off of potential stages that could be curveballs, a lot of them probably favor slower compositions, right? They are much longer in nature with a few more open sight lines or some more verticality that's more challenging. Inkblot here can be a very momentum driven stage. If you can control specific key areas of the stage, you are going to set your team up very well for further success on any mode on this particular stage. And so I like this Inkblot pick. We have yet to see it here today, which sounds weird to say, but as usually it's a fan favorite. But I think in this case, it really does make sense here for the Honey Badgers.
I know a specific caster that is going to be at least happy that it's not tower control on Inkblot Art Academy and that we're seeing a little bit of variance between the stage and mode combination here. And Falco, your thoughts on how Rainmaker will impact Inkblot Art Academy? We may not see maybe as much use of those lower court areas on the side, as a lot of teams are just going to try and blaze it up either that left-hand side uninkable ramp or even maybe trying to use the ink rails on the far left.
Yeah, and even though Rainmaker is a mode where you carry the objective, you can take it anywhere, there's only one checkpoint that you can go through. There's only one option. There's no, are we going to pivot left or right? How do we want to position ourselves? So it's a little bit more predictable too. But of course there are opportunities that you can have 1 or 2 players, maybe get a flank, go on the ink rail, try and get behind some opponents. But it is a little bit trickier. We don't see Rainmaker played on this stage very often. Like you mentioned, tower control typically is the mode that we see, so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And Honey Badgers, I like this choice for them just because it's not as conventional as it could be, and again, they need anything in their favor to try and get this win.
I think Clam Blitz would even probably be second in the proverbial hierarchy of most commonly played modes for this stage. So happy to see a little bit of a shakeup, if not with the mode, then with what stage is going to be paired with. And, you know, K-Bot, not a ton of real estate to work with. You know, you see some of the other stages that are available. You mentioned an Urchin Underpass that has tons and tons of available land that you can maneuver around on. Not so with Inkbot Art Academy, where you have a pretty set rectangular kind of middle area, and as Falco mentioned, only one real path that you can actually take the Rainmaker on and see a good bit of success.
Yeah, to your point, Zach, one of the reasons why Urchin Underpass typically does favor those shorter range weapons is because of just how open the space is and how easy it is actually to just swim right up a ramp and suddenly be in the face of whatever anchor was trying to zone you away. You have so much area to run around and work with that it's a lot easier to find attacks and success with some of those shorter range options. I think here in Inkblood Art Academy, things can be much more dependent on where people are positioned, what kind of phase we're getting into, and what part of the stage you're trying to get into. Because with that little bit of verticality that Inkblot does have, it does provide an opportunity for some of those longer range threats to be a little more protected and at bay. And it takes a lot more dedicated resources and a plan to try to get those away. We'll see if that can happen here as we get into things.
Let's get into game one. It's losers semis between Honey Badgers and C4K. We've got the weapons here loaded out, and Falco, a couple things jumping out. The return of the S-Blast 91, something that saw a ton of success in 2025, as well as a sloshing machine Neo for C4K.
Yeah, Sloshing Machine Neo, that is the first one that caught my eye, a weapon that we don't see very often. That's going to have Booyah Bomb to help try and support these Rainmaker pushes. It's going to be the Honey Badgers first to pick it up. Bland is going to be the one who grabs it first, trying to shoot some Rainmaker shots over to the opponents of C4K. Able to get that checkpoint and avoid the Tenta missiles, and 3 members are down. Honey Badgers really trying to ride this momentum, and Nugget, oh, they dropped. They were so close to staying on that wall. That is one of those strategies we love to see when it pays off. So sneaky. Unfortunately, it gets reset, but still, Zach, Honey Badger's in a very good position.
Disproportionately on this stage compared to others, I see more creative play. Things like just moving around, not even an ink in your squid form, or just walking up the uninkable ramps to try and get somebody that's accosting you from the court area. It just shows up on smaller stages like this one, as C4K is going to take their first crack with the Rainmaker. Not going to get any points out of it. Tuck, we see, will get one pick there, a second one onto Gudra, and that will help bring up that Flow Aura state. And K-Bot, they didn't even need to use their Booyah Bomb, which they'll save for right now, and get another one onto Meltdown.
Beautiful use here. Again, extending the use of this Flow Aura. We'll see if Tuck can get any further forward. But meanwhile, C4K is trying to make a play towards the middle of the stage, and Nugget picks up the Rainmaker to run it down. Now down to the 31-point mark. It almost didn't even matter that Tuck was going up to that upper left side. Alas, the push will end here, but it's down to 31, which is great news, even if they give away this checkpoint.
Yeah, the main saving grace is that C4K had to get that checkpoint first. That does allow Honey Badgers to get back. Now Gudra going to use the Trizuka to zone out the enemy team further here. And Meltdown playing patiently. They're both dodging the Ultra Stamp that comes through, but not without taking a good bit of damage here, even falling behind this ramp and wall, and Astro having to come back for them, but they lose their 2 teammates in the process. Honey Badgers getting out a Tacticooler to boot, and they're basically sending this Rainmaker running Falco without any new momentum gained.
Yeah, and to C4K's credit, they're doing a good job just not overextending themselves too. And look, they still have a player advantage even with the Rainmaker going down. But this seems like a brand new Honey Badgers team than what we saw in the very first set with how dominant they were with that opening push. And now's our first opportunity to really see how they're going to be doing on defense. And we mentioned too with C4K, with the patience they have with the Rainmaker. Look at where Meltdown is, already painting by the podium. There's some disconnects that are happening here. One member is alive 5 here. It is going to be Tuck, but that is a member of Honey Badgers who gets disconnected. Now, Honey Badgers has the lead right now. This game will have to play out. Zach, we're going to see how long they can hold on to this lead in the last 2 minutes.
To Falco's point, you have to play out even when you get a disconnect after the first minute of the game. So it'll be Honey Badgers with a disadvantage in that regard, but still with the lead. We're going to see the Booyah Bomb come back out from Tuck, and they're going to throw it to make sure that they can create some distance between themselves and Astro, who will get a couple of shots and help to get the pick there. But it will be effectively a 2v2 as Meltdown's going to pick it up, not make any forward progress. K-Bot, the benefit to Honey Badgers is there is a steadily decreasing amount of time left on the clock, a minute and a half left to go.
As long as they're able to team up here, play as a unit of 3, and continue protecting this Rainmaker, they're going to be successful at actually employing an interesting strategy here. They're going to take it backwards up to the high ground, where it's going to be even more challenging for the Honey Badgers to try to get to it. Bland will in fact jump off to reset this Rainmaker back into the middle of the stage, where it looks like the Honey Badgers have more of a presence. But again, if C4K can regroup here quickly, they can prevent this from going down. But no, they just dive on top of the Rainmaker, and some of them, their members, get taken down. Bland is the only one up here on this top left side, will get taken down as well. Tuck now dives in, and now it's going to be the lead for Honey Badgers by 2 points. Just come out with it.
That is devastating for C4K as they were looking to hold it down. They had a solid strategy. Nugget able to get it out back close to mid, but not able to come back from the path that was painted for them. The little leap of faith allowing them to get through. Bland trying to make the most of this Killer Rail 5.1. Gets Sylveon, looks for a second and finds it there onto Astro. That'll proc the Flow Aura State once again. And Falco, this is looking like maybe an opportunity for C4K to come back on the back of Bland.
Yeah, we're going to see how that's going to work out, too, with C4K able to make this push. 3 are down. Can they get the lead? Yes, they do! Wow! With the disconnect, C4K in the last moment able to come back and get the win. Not anything we were expecting here, Zach. Now, the crazy part about this game is that your focus immediately, as soon as you get disconnected, one of your teammates, your focus immediately goes from let's get this win, let's get this knockout, to let's not lose the lead. Like, that's all you're focused on for the minute and a half remaining. But, you know, when push comes to shove, if you see that moment and that opportunity presented in front of you, you have to take it, and that is exactly what happened. Oh my goodness.
C4K says to Honey Badgers, I hope you enjoyed those sweeps that you got in the loser side of the bracket, because we are right back in your face and we are not going to give you any ground even when we lose a player. And both teams, I think, K-Bot, employing pretty smart strategies. We saw holding the Rainmaker, ignoring the don't retreat moniker that comes up, and then jumping off into the water to reset the Rainmaker. But in the end, it was going to be C4K finding a way. But we are going to go now to tower control as our next mode, and hopefully with all 8 players on the field for the entire length of the game.
That's right. This is C4K's mode pick. It's the same mode pick they picked in game 2 of the winners quarterfinals series. So it makes perfect sense that they're picking it again here. The question again remains, what stage can the other side of the Honey Badgers put forward to try to play that strange game? I personally, again, think, Zach, leading towards something like an Urgent Underpass, even though it's tower control and does play a little slower, can still play to their advantage if they're able to find that pick or something else that they're more comfortable on.
And Falco, I don't want to put too much stock into the disconnect, because while it's genuinely impressive to see the 3v4 victory, Honey Badgers did decidedly look stronger in that game 1 than the pretty much entirety of that first match in winners quarters finals between these two teams. And we have gotten the stage now. I think that's going to be our first look at Undertow Spillway for today.
Yeah, one of the largest stages that we have here in the game, too. A lot of area to cover and try and take advantage of where you want to present yourselves to. And like we mentioned with the Honey Badgers, again, they started that game out extremely strong. They looked very different than how we saw them in their match. There was just something that turned up for C4K where they just knew, you know what, if we can get 1 or 2 picks, we can take this 3v4. We can make sure that even if it's a fair fight with a number of Inklings and Octolings on the field, we can get the win. So Honey Badgers, still, you're down, you lose a match where, you know, it wasn't really fair in favor of your team, but you still know that you have that chance to compete, and it's a new stage and you're really hoping for all the opportunities.
Undertow Spillway oft used for Rainmaker, but Rainmaker no longer available, as of course you cannot repeat modes in the same match. K-Bot, with this stage and mode at our disposal, does this look like an opportunity for Honey Badgers to come back and tie this matchup at 1?
I think, again, there's a world where it could be, you know, there's some opportunities to find angles of attack here that could catch a longer range weapon off guard. We'll see if the Honey Badgers can, in fact, find those as we get into this one.
Well, it's going to be try v try. Try as you might, you cannot avoid the try weapons with a try Slosher Nouveau from Sylveon and a try Stringer from Liv. That's going to have that Toxic Mist and Killer Whale 5.1. And Falco, the double blaster composition is back. And on the opposite side, a Rapid Blaster and a Dynamo joining things.
Yeah, some new weapons that we've seen here. Yeah, Rapid Blaster, you pointed out, and the Tri-Stringer as well. So these are some exciting picks as C4K quickly gets past that first checkpoint. Of course, it's not very far you have to get past this first checkpoint. And they seem uncontested too, with Sylveon trying to get to Nugget, but Nugget says, nope, I'm going to use this Ultra Stamp and try and take you down. But now Goodra is caught in a 1 versus 2 here. They're going to get away while all the focus goes back to the tower. You know, C4K, as K-Bot pointed out, pay no attention to what's happening to the objective over there. Pay attention to me. That is a strategy that C4K has been living by. It's been working out for them, and they've always seemed to have a player advantage so far in this game in the first minute.
It's like we're walking on the Nugget bridge here, as Nugget, able to survive the entire way through, gets that Flow Aura State, builds up that Ultra Stamp, and has helped C4K get all the way to 23, but it's an odd person advantage here for Honey Badgers. It's 2v2. It's been turned now into a 2v1 and a 3-on-0. That's a wipeout for C4K. If you needed any further proof that the 3v4 win was not a fluke, there it is. K-Bot, as a super fast game 2 brings C4K up 2-0.
Reminiscent of the last tower control game that these two teams played as well, though it may not have been quite as quick, still ended in a knockout fashion, and still ended with C4K having a commanding presence not only on the tower, but around the tower. The ability of your teammates to continue escorting that area around the tower as it continues to encroach towards your opponent's side of the stage is just as important, if not more important, than the actual threats that are posed to the tower itself, because the more area that you're able to build up and defend, the easier it is to prevent anyone from potentially getting into have an impact on the tower itself. Exactly what C4K was able to do in that game, and exactly what they're looking to replicate as we head into future games from them.
Falco, we see 2 blasters in that game. I made a comment earlier in this stream about, oh, surely we won't see 2 blasters on Splat Zones, and then we did in fact see 2 blasters on Splat Zones. We're now going back to Splat Zones for game number 3, so yet again, we do not break the mode trifecta. What are the chances this time that they maintain this double blaster composition, especially with how Nugget was performing on that Luna Neo?
I think it's getting higher and higher each game that we see C4K play. You know, you would think it's pretty low to begin with, and you see how dominant they are too. They have been proving themselves to be very, very strong. In that second game, there was barely any blue ink on the stage coming out from the Honey Badgers. You know, you have some fights here in mid, but as soon as the objective started moving, as soon as the tower started getting from checkpoint to checkpoint, Honey Badgers didn't even have any opportunity to flank to try and get around behind the tower. C4K always had a player advantage, and I think it's led with these strong area of effect weapons like the Blaster that's able to get pick after pick after pick.
K-Bot, we talked about this stage briefly before, I believe, game 2, and we now go to Urchin Underpass, and I believe it's going to be for Splat Zone. So, in theory, you take a large portion of this stage and you make it, for the most part, not inaccessible, but not really optimal to be used. You can use that kind of right-hand side entryway into mid, but for the most part, you're going to be filtering out to the left, using the grate, using that sort of left-hand side alleyway. What are you looking for on this stage and mode combination?
Again, I think the critical piece here is how much of your opponent's ramp that you can control, right? It's a very large area that has open sight lines and also has multiple areas of attack, right? But the quicker that you can get upwards to that area and prevent your opponents from coming in to even think about laying a drop of ink onto the zone, the better it will be for you. And a large part of that comes down to what you can do on the other side of this stage. I'm looking to see which team can set up that area of attack a little better as we head in to our third game.
Honey Badgers trying not to make this their last dance of the week. C4K trying to repeat history and go 3-0 in this match. We'll see how it shakes out. And a couple of changes. Falco, that custom blaster will come back out. I believe we saw it previously for Splat Zones. And Live on the custom Explosher to round things out as their anchor.
Yeah, it's going to have the splashdown to help support, try and get some of the paint too. And not many weapon changes on the side of Honey Badger as we see the splatter color screen come out too. 3 are going to go down on C4K, so this is where Honey Badgers can really try and make something happen. We can see Gudra trying to extend a little bit here, is going to go back for some cooler while they have control of the zone. And of course, they don't want to push up too far. Now this again is a stage that the positioning you might not really be as comfortable with just because you might not have played it as much. It is a newer stage in this game with one of the more updates that was prior to this recent update too. But Honey Badgers again with that wipeout still controlling the zone, Zach. This looks like they're in a really good position.
It almost feels like this zone, the walls that are not actually real, they're trying to make them real. They're bunkering at least 3 out of their 4 players. The 52 Deco, the Trinavo, and this Dynamo Roller were bunkered down hard into that splat zone and making sure they could survive. Unfortunately, a big counter to that is going to be the triple splashdown that covers the entirety of that zone. But Gudra, with the Aura flow state, is full Aura state there, is going to lock things down. And even on the back of a powerful special like that, K-Bot, they retain the zone once again.
Honey Badgers are doing a great job of working around one another, working the entire length of the zone and a little past it. Again, looking towards that ramp to prevent players like Tuck from stepping too far forward. They're in a good spot now, but it looks like they're on the back foot as we see C4K come on top of this zone and find the retake. There's the wipeout to force the members of the Honey Badgers back away. And now it's C4K's turn to go on the defensive here, and you already see, so this is about as far forward as they really want to be, controlling this ramp and preventing the Honey Badgers from using it to get back in.
Yeah, different strategies for these two teams, where Honey Badgers did not want to leave the zone, as we see a beautiful triple splashdown. Almost got the third there onto Gudra, but in the meantime, Honey Badgers slip by and are able to take the zone, so you get a double. But how worth it is it really, especially with how quickly the Honey Badgers can get back into the zone? K-Bot, you mentioned before how well they wanted to go forward into the ramp. Honey Badgers, Falco, this is sort of their bread and butter, is to stay by the zone and guard it as best they can.
Yeah, and especially with the lead they have right now, they need to ride this momentum. Astro's in a very good spot, keeping some of these jumps, but no, going to go down to Tuck and Live. I thought they were going to get a double, maybe a triple splat. It was not going to work, but C4K trying to take advantage of this right now. Live trying to take down Meltdown too, using this triple splashdown in the zone as well too. So again, a lot of action, and you know, this is the most content we've seen from this set so far this game too, but we just see really now with Honey Badger's full strength, the back and forth in the caliber of this game.
Live, every time they triple splashdown, or anytime we see the triple splashdown, I just think it's free real estate for whoever gets it. Like, they're capping the zone immediately upon using it, but even so, Honey Badger's doing such a great job of getting it back immediately after. Now, this is where C4K is wanting to live. They have the triple splashdown once again. Is Liv going to make use of it? They smartly hold onto it, K-Bot, as Meltdown goes down, and it's getting closer and closer from here.
The splatter color screen starting to come across the zone. It's forcing the members of C4K back, and now forcing to use even more of those resources. It was 2 down earlier, and it's 2 down now, as that's a delayed wipeout as the Honey Badgers continue marching forward, build up some more presence, and we'll take back control of the zone. We'll see how much longer they can hold on to this one, or if indeed they can push even further up and prevent C4K from getting on top of the zone. Here's Astro again, and finds 2. It's 3 down for C4K here, and the Honey Badgers are starting to run away with it.
3 down on C4K. Honey Badgers may finally have the success they've been looking for, and with just under 45 seconds to go, that's a knockout for Honey Badgers, as history, at least in the form of a sweep, will not repeat itself. We will at least need a game 4 to settle this one, Falco.
Yeah, and that means we're going to either see Clay and Blitz or Turf War too for the first time. So I know you're excited about that. We'll finally get it. Hey, it took us to the loser semifinals to get to that point, but that is totally okay. But Honey Badgers had a fantastic game. Again, K-Bot pointed out with how well they were playing the zone and staying around the zone, making sure that they had full control and knowing when to push forward, knowing when to extend and when to pull back. And this was one of the only opportunities we saw them really get a player advantage, and they thrived on that. They rode that wave once they had a player advantage to make sure they had the zone controlled, make sure that they could push up and get position themselves, build some specials, and there were some times that they lost it, and C4K was able to push back in, but all in all, Honey Badgers looked a lot more comfortable this time around.
And it looked, K-Bot, like the longer range or the anchor players, although Dynamo also considered more of a support too. They have this kind of catch-22 where they have such powerful ink output, but they have such slow firing. So you have to be so conscientious with when you're firing, how you're firing, and who you catch. And I think both of these players, but especially on the Dynamo, we saw impact splats in addition to building up that tactical core that is such a boon for your team.
Those impact splats right at the end of the game are what secure it out of Astro for those Honey Badgers. And I think the interesting piece, right, is that maybe I wouldn't recommend all of the time your Dynamo roller to be stepping face first into 2 members of your opponents, but if you're able to catch your opponent out by surprise on any weapon in the game, especially weapons that will just drop a torrent of ink on your opponents and instantly be able to take them down, the better it will be. And if you're able to do it from a safe position, all the better as well. Astro was able to come up with those at the very end of the game, and it's no small part in the reason why Honey Badgers were able to walk away with that one. You know, Zach, I don't know if I can consider Astro as much of a support in that last game with just how far forward and how much part of the fights they were.
Well, Falco, it's Clam Blitz we will see, and the first time we will see it today. So let's go ahead and look at the rules for how Clam Blitz is played.
All right, my favorite game mode. Let's go. All right, so you're going to collect some clams on the stage. If you can collect 8 of them, you're going to be forming a power clam, and the goal of that power clam is to break the opponent's basket. Once the basket is open, you want to try and get that score down from 100 to 0. 1 clam is going to be 3 points, and a power clam is worth a whopping 20 points. If neither team scores 100 points, the team with the fewest points remaining wins the game.
And Falco, popular topic with, the team that gets to select the mode in game 4 is that if you go to a game 5, you as the selector of the mode in game 4 are basically picking for both of the final games. So they guarantee the order in which they're played, and they prefer, it looks like, Clam Blitz first and then Turf War if needed to settle things. But for Honey Badgers, has to feel pretty good to finally be in that position of power of being able to select the mode.
Right, and of course, this might not be their first option. We'll never really know, but it's still an option that, again, it could throw some curveballs which might benefit you in your favor. We talked about Urchin Underpass with the stage that we don't see very often, and guess who won that one? The Honey Badgers. So it's going to be interesting to see, but C4K is now in control of what stage is going to be played, which I think is going to be very different for what they're used to in this particular set. And when they face each other, they've never been in this position before. Are they going to go back to one of the stages that they played during the first round of the winners quarterfinals? We'll see.
And K-Bot, it's tough to predict a stage because we've seen some curveballs thrown out today. We've seen Rainmaker for stages like Hagglefish and Inkblot, where maybe that wouldn't be the first choice, or has at least not been historically within the league. Any stages that are still left that you see as potential options here?
You know, I was thinking through the stage list in my head here, especially trying to see, like, if I was Honey Badgers, what would I even want out of what's left? Because the short range option and the faster paced option of Urchin Underpass, you were just able to successfully win on. What can you emulate there? And there's not a lot of great options. I think Scorch Gorge or maybe a Mahi Mahi you could maybe find some success with. But then again, if you're C4K, having blasters that are able to peek right over top of that ledge can very easily shut things down just as quickly as they could get started. So it'll be interesting to hear what C4K goes with.
Well, you mentioned it, and we will be going to it for the first time on the broadcast today. Scorch Gorge, Falco, is going to be the pick. What do you make of this mode and stage combination?
Yeah, how K-Bot described it, a little bit more condensed. It takes you a while from your spawn to swim to your basket, which can be devastating if you do get splatted. But all of the action is going to be centered around that middle portion. Of course, a lot of players like to push up together, form a clan. There's going to be a pillow right by the basket to help support. And it gets really, really dicey right in front of the basket with all the specials that are going to be launched and thrown their way too. But I think this is a very fun pick.
And I think for both teams, they have players that you could easily foresee as going ahead of the basket, because there's a good amount of real estate. You have this, ramp down and then ramp back up that goes to the spawn area that's right behind the basket. We'll see if those more aggressive players play there. But it's game 4. Can this team make it through? Can we see Honey Badgers get another game win off of C4K, or will C4K cement it here? And K-Bot looking at the weapons. That 52 gal Deco makes a return, and on the opposite side of things, a Tentabrella for the first time today.
The Tentabrella coming out here, we've talked a little bit, Zach, about the Ink Vac, and I think that is a key portion of it. On Scorch Gorge, there's not a lot of area underneath the basket, and an Ink Vac can very effectively shield any teammates from incoming ink from your opponents. And so with that in mind, it's much easier in order to be able to score with this Ink Vac, and the Tentabrella providing extra shielding and an extra amount of presence under the basket will be what this team is looking for.
So both teams, again, kind of jockeying for position, feeling around the middle part of the map here and making sure that this stage is fully inked. Gudra wandering around, and I think C4K coming together. We see Bland and Tuck even using the big bubbler on that side as Astro and Sylveon are trying to break it down. We see Meltdown fall too. That's going to be the Dapple Dewey's Nox going down. And Falco, the strategy typically with this Tentabrella, and even now with the ink back that we're seeing, is bunker down, absorb incoming ink, and make sure that the rest of your team can stay behind it for the incoming push.
That's right. And speaking of incoming push, I was very curious about what C4K was doing there, because they had 2 players right under Honey Badger's basket, but they had no power clams. They didn't even have any small clams. They may have had 1 or 2, so it kind of seemed like an empty push. They were hoping that something would work out. They may have been a little bit ahead of themselves in that situation, but with that happening and 2 players maybe overextending a little bit, that's going to give Honey Badgers a lot more real estate in mid here, as Nugget able to take out Gudra, who was holding that power clam. And now that's going to allow C4K to get more comfortable back into mid. But again, this is just a game of neutral once again with 2 minutes down.
Well, and interesting to see Honey Badgers using the splatter color screen without a push, because that effectively is your Tentabrella. It's just a larger version and special version of that main weapon, as we see the first break of the barricade come through for C4K. The jump-ins come out. Meltdown's going to fall. Tuck trying to get another pick there. Cannot find, but turns 90 degrees and is able to get Gudra before going down. That would have set up their team for success, but the rest of Honey Badgers with a solid defense, stopping the push at just the power clam going in. And K-Bot, we go back to a slight stalemate, but with C4K in the lead.
Limiting this down to only 1 power clam going in the basket means that there's a possibility for more, but no, C4K is just going to attack right again, and the splatter color screen limits it to only 1 power clam. The rest of the Honey Badgers are coming in to clean up those members that were further forward, but they have to be careful here because C4K is still waiting patiently to try to see if the Honey Badgers are going to push out of this. Tuck now going to get taken down here, and the Honey Badgers still are lacking in clam numbers, and Nugget walks forward again and pulls up one more power clam. You see another few follow, and now suddenly C4K is down to 51. Finally, the Honey Badgers have an opportunity to make a push happen here, Zach.
So tough to see Sylveon not get that pick. Meltdown going down and misses the throw. That's huge as they committed the splatter color screen to it. They still have 2 members up. Are they going to get picks? They find Bland looking for another one as they start to jump in behind the cushion. Liv will fall too, and Sylveon trying to escort the rest of the team using the Tenta missiles as well. Their clams, where it once was at 20, now down to a measly 6 here, Falco. And although they have 7 built up with Astro, no points come on the board.
Oh yeah, Honey Badgers, what was really unfortunate for them is they could have easily formed a power clam if they just knew which player was going to grab it. They were doing a little clam shuffle, finally able to score now in position to get the lead. There is a power clam that appears to be coming closer. Meltdown is the one holding it. If they get this, they will take the lead, and they do. 1 minute remaining. Honey Badgers has it. 1 player is down right now, but they're keeping up this pressure. Unfortunately, they don't have a lot of clams that are coming right now. Asher tries to follow up 1. The Dabble Doolies is going to be getting a few more in as well. And so Honey Badgers still trying to keep up this pressure, keep up the momentum. Basket will finally be closing now, so a fantastic push here. C4K now has to realize that, look, we probably have 1 more push left. If we score a power claim, we're barely going to net any points. We need to make sure if we score, it has to be a good push.
And they ended that fight effectively being 2v2, so it's not like C4K could just turn on their heels, have an insane amount of clams at the ready, and just burn through the middle of the stage to get to the basket. They have to recoup and make sure that they have everything for the impending overtime. And K-Bot, 2 specials already on the board. They have the canopy of that 10 missile that's already used early, so they're going to have to wait it to the start of the overtime to make use of it once again.
It's a series of 2s right now, Zach, as it's going to take 2 power clams for C4K to come back with the victory. They have both power clams on the stage at once, and you see Liv going back to pick up the one underneath the basket. There's 2 going down, 1 goes in, and the second one is about to jump in to follow, and C4K will take it. They secure their win in the loser semifinals here over the Honey Badgers.
So tough for Honey Badgers. They play the long game. They wait and wait, and they get in their mind what was probably a very optimal push, gain the lead, and then C4K showing the resilience and the recuperation getting into overtime, as I saw waiting on multiple specials before using them in the latter portion of the game. And we see, of course, Falco, how notorious overtime can be, not just for the length that the overtime can last, but also if you allow those other team members to go back and build up another power clam after breaking the basket, your lead can evaporate like that.
Yeah, and the execution from C4K, they knew their plan 3 steps in advance. They knew exactly who was going to be pushing, who was going to be flanking, which player was going to be forming a power clam in the back towards their basket. So it was a very, very strong push there for C4K, and now they will be moving up into losers finals.
Well, this was a closer 3-1 than you might have expected, and we have a replay from game 1 to show you as C4K has punched their ticket. We see Goodra getting splatted and Tuck moving forward. This was from that insane 3v4 clutch at the very end, using the 2 different firing modes as well as the burst bomb with that S-Blast 91, survives some collateral damage from the splat bomb, and moves forward with a little bit of help from the splash wall to make it happen. So K-Bot, they did lose a game, but it will be C4K who earns their place in losers finals against a cute team.
Yeah, and as we take a look at the bracket here, I want to compliment C4K once more. To your point, Zach, and to Falco's point, they're able to stay coordinated and fend off some of those pushes and capitalize on their opponent's mistakes a little more. And once they have that continued solidified plan and know that they have to work together, they're going to be very easily able to take things like 3v1s like we saw on that replay at the end, or 2v1s that come out on top in very close quarters fights in the big bubbler. But with the bracket here, of course, it's C4K moving on to play against a cute team here, which you know, there's been stages in this bracket overall here, Zach, so it'll be interesting for sure to see these two now go up against each other.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, our last match was concluded there. This is the reprieve where we're seeing two teams that have not played each other in top 8 going up against each other, and we'll see that shortly. But first, we have a little bit of a package for you. The Splatoon 3 North American League 2026 Sunday Scrim is tomorrow, as it happens every Sunday. And if you're curious about how to sign up, we have a little instructional video for you and on how you can get signed up to play some Salmon Run. What's up, guys? Shiny Hunter Zach here with EE, and I gotta say, I've got a hankering for some Salmon Run. How about you?
And tell you what, that is something I've been eager to get into and really try out. But how do I sign up for that, Zach? What is the protocol?
Well, so these are put into tournaments just like your Anarchy or Turf War modes are, and you can sign up by visiting battlefy.com/Nintendo Versus. Go to the events section and scan the QR code, or if you're on mobile, tap the button. Both ways will get you to the Tournament Manager section of Splatnet 3 on your Nintendo Switch app. From here, you can see the full details and sign up as a solo, pair, trio, or if you recruit some good friends, a team of 4. How does that sound, EE?
Sounds amazing to me. I know for a fact I want to get some homies in here right now to do some practicing, so I'm ready for those tournaments.
Well, EE, we could wait for the Splatoon 3 North American League 2026 Sunday Scrim, but why not get in on the action early, which is why we've brought in our friends Nine and Milana to play some Salmon Run today. Now, we could play some freelance with friends if we wanted to, but let's use the job scenario instead, which lets us replay past shifts and really focus on improving our Salmon Run coordination.
I'm very excited. I just want to get past the first wave.
No, we got you. You're definitely getting past wave 1, at least. Or, we might not be the best of friends at this point if we manage to fail you here. But I think we got you. Big money, big shot. The pressure's on me to perform here, but this is supposed to be your mode.
Listen, I'm just here. I'm here to have a good time with my friends.
Dude, what is happening?
That's all right. We got you.
All right,
there's a couple...
remember earlier when I said that if we can't get through one wave, we might have to retire?
But I feel like everyone's entitled to a hand warmer. Dude, we got this.
We just need one egg.
I have one.
Yes!
Survive!
Yes! Let's go! Bang!
Oh my goodness!
Emergency!
We're not done yet.
Wait, what is this?
The King
this is
Salmonid,
King Salmonid.
Megalodontia.
The Megalodontia is going to have this big red wound on his back.
Okay.
Just shoot it.
Okay, one more. We're going to get one more chance here.
Oh my god, I'm going to die.
Oh my god.
Not like this.
No, I'm
Not like
resing.
this.
Shoot with all your might. No! It's 1 HP! Oh my gosh, it's 1. Run it back. All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
We can't end on that, surely. We have to go again and see if we can get Megalodontia down. All right, this first part we've got down pat.
Yeah.
Surely.
This is the easy part.
I'll take care of the fish stick.
Wow. Yeah.
Never mind, all you.
Okay. I didn't know what I was saying. It's fine. Okay. Got the fish stick?
I got like revived and then like immediately like jailed by that monster.
He got put in jail.
Stinger down.
Sad.
All right, I have a
Gotcha.
Right, depositing.
Oh, and another one.
Yeah,
Bang.
2 more.
All right,
Let's
32.
go.
32. We're good.
Nice.
Let's go.
And I maintain my special.
All right, now the big shots start getting incorporated.
Yes, those big shots are so deadly.
E and I have some eggs here that we're going to bring back up.
Oh my goodness. Big shot.
I'll bring up.
Okay, I got the big shots.
Thank you.
10 seconds. We have a fish stick right
I got
here.
2 more eggs.
Yep, got it.
I'm trying so hard. I'm trying so
I see.
hard.
We just need one more. We got it. Never
Okay,
lives.
Nice. Good stuff.
Oh, that was so
stuff.
scary.
Oof.
That was so scary.
Turf up.
Turf up.
I'm derping.
Help me. Behind you.
Oh, sorry. I was too busy derping.
E, you already have the call outs of a pro player, let me tell you. Help me, I'm behind you.
EE, I got you.
Nice.
We have enough.
Okay.
We have enough.
Eggs. Right here.
I can't get to the
Yes!
eggs. Oh,
Oh my
Nice.
goodness, we are so good.
Just live.
oh,
Okay.
All right,
wait.
now we lock in. Turf.
We can't let our guards down. Hold on.
Okay.
Whoa.
Oh.
There it is. We made it back.
All right,
remember
try to
this
stay in the
guy.
middle. Try
Yep.
to stay in the middle-ish.
Smart. Let me get this steelhead real quick. Steelhead
Nice.
down.
Good getting. Okay, hold
Oh
on.
my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. That's good. That's good. That's good damage. Good damage. Don't forget you have another special if you used all your
Great
specials,
damage.
EE.
Oh, we're so close.
Yeah.
Again,
Okay,
it's
we're
going to be a
gonna
photo
one
finish.
more chance at it. It's going to E.
Shoot.
Shoot.
We got it. We got it. We got it. Oh my goodness.
Oh, and there we go. We all went down at the end.
was so
going
good.
back, baby!
We're eating good tonight, boys.
Captain sinks with the ship, or the helicopter in this case.
We did it. Let's go. Finally.
Yes, sir. That's
my
how you salmon
goodness.
run.
Yeah, anyway, salmon run's great.
It is. With a team like this, it's amazing.
You can do that too in the Splatoon 3 North American League 2026 Sunday scrims. Well, thank you, me. And Falco, doesn't that just want to make you play some salmon run sometime soon?
I just want to know how we saw a few attempts later. How many attempts exactly? Zach?
It was many. You know, that's why they don't put a number on there. They just say many. You know, we don't need specifics here. We don't need to get that specific.
Not a
It's
we lost
Alright.
count. Just
minor
like
details.
Okay.
We won at the end of the day, even though we all went down after we defeated all of the King Salmonids. We still made it work. So but that was super fun. You know, I'm super grateful to Nine, Milana, and EE for joining me for some salmon run there. And you, of course, can play the Splatoon 3 North American League Sunday Scrim every Sunday at noon Pacific. Join up either by yourself with a duo, trio, or a full squad of 4. But we've got the rest of our preseason week 2 to look at. And K-Bot, we're now at our losers finals between Acute Team and C4K, who we saw once again defeat the Honey Badgers, this time 3-1.
That's right. This will be the first time we get to see C4K play against a different opponent on this broadcast. And I think it'll be interesting to watch them go up against Acute Team. Again, this very momentum-based team. They have a lot of star individual players that are not afraid to go step up and bring the fight to you. The question will be, can they stay coordinated enough when the pace of play gets skyrocketed up on them with some of those consistent pressures and things from some of these players. If they play like they did in the last one, I think there's a possibility here where they can find opportunities to make fights into 3v2s in favor of them rather than getting surprised by one person jumping out at them. So we'll see if they're able to be successful in that way.
And Falco mode and stage-wise, we come back to Hagglefish, which seems like a great opening stage that a lot of teams are gravitating towards, and it's Splat Zones this time. So another one-zone stage, and one that I think both of these teams are likely not going to be unhappy to play on.
No, I think this is to be expected from pretty much any team that could be playing in this position too. It's important to point out that Acute Team and C4K, they did face each other in the ladder stage. Acute Team did beat C4K 2-0. So if we're a betting person here, we want to put our money on somebody, Acute Team has the upper edge, but hey, we're in losers finals, anything's possible.
Gotta give our shout out to Zara again on the spec cam as we enter losers finals between Acute Team and C4K. Taking a look at what they've brought, we see the return of that Comet's Octobrush, and on the opposite side of things, Liv going with the vanilla, we'll call it, version of the Explosher K-Bot to give them an Inkstorm.
The Explosher and the Slosher here in combination and tandem. We'll see if it has enough ink output. I'm a little afraid at C4K's painting potential and ability to shut down some of those individual plays that Acute Team has been known for so far, especially now that we've seen the switch over to the Snipe Rider, that elusive anchor that we've been talking about for part of the day today has been absent, but it's back here and has potential to put out a decent amount of ink and long-range presence. But for the moment, C4K is attacking very strongly here, taking it to Acute Team, and they might go down, but they've worn down 50 points off their score.
Wow, and a wipeout is what it will take to get C4K off the zone here. A heavy price paid, though, by a Cute Team as they use multiple specials. And definitely, Falco, do not count out the Snipe Rider 5H. This thing has been dominant in Splatoon 3 and especially the 2025 season of the league for a reason. With its great ink output in a straight line and solid distance, is C4K not going to retain that momentum as they go 3 down once again.
Right, and there's a reason why a lot of players tend to use this weapon, especially before the heavy splat wing was more commonly utilized too. So we could see that happening, but right now a Cute Team in a good position to take the lead. They still have a player advantage over C4K. Ooh, and Nugget able to take out Weatherman, who deployed that Ultra Stamp, and now Nugget is going to get some triple ink strikes, but going to go down to Goliath, who is going to get 2 players down. All of that happening. C4K still holding on to the zone. A lot of players going down, a lot of penalties, points, but C4K back in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I love my pendulum analogies. The pendulum is swinging back and forth heavily here. It's 3 downs across the board here, and C4K, the ones currently in control, not that large of a penalty to chew through as they're in a solid position. Once again, using the splatter color screen for defense as they've really seemed to gravitate to this 52 gal deco, but multiple specials coming out for a Cute Team. That was the Killer Whale 5.1. Not going to make the lead happen, though, but C4K taking it over instead as they'll lose 2 members, but they'll get K-Bot what they came for in the end.
Applying that zone penalty to that score is so critical at this stage of the game. Your scores are so even, and if a Q team can wear this down well enough, they'll be able to come out on top or potentially even push for the knockout. But here's the push from C4K as 2 specials are committed. That splatter color screen, Booyah Bomb, now the Ink Storm coming down on top of the zone as Nugget pushes forward into it. That's 2, activates the flow aura here, and is now going up this left side to contest the rest of the members of a Cute Team. Bland will pick up one of the last members around as we see Goliath try to work up this right side with the Kraken Royale. Has to be answered as now comes up from behind Bland, who has forced to step forward, but it looks like we're still in penalty territory here. C4K goes 3 down. They'll lose control of the zone. There's the wipeout.
Yeah, K-Bot, you made the call out of, I don't know if the Explosher can put out enough ink to really survive, and I'm seeing with C4K's comp that they have 3 specials at least that are for that purpose of just using 2 or 3 of them at a time and making sure you can get the zone, because I don't think any one of them is usually enough, even if you place it perfectly, including the Booyah Bomb, as we see Goliath getting 2 there through the splatter color screen. That's going to once again activate that full war state. Penalty gone, lead gained, Falco, for a Cute Team, and they're not looking to give it up anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think that lead would have been taken if Goliath wouldn't have gotten those splats. That was absolutely crucial for a Cute Team to make sure they kept this momentum up. And a Cute Team still with the 3 down going to be getting game 1, and they seem to be really unstoppable in that last minute and a half.
Certainly some back and forth there, so should make for a great losers finals, but it starts with a Cute Team getting a knockout here for Splat Zone's Hagglefish Market. And K-Bot, I think we kind of expected, even though this is the first time in top 8 we're seeing these 2 teams play against each other, a little bit more fight and a little bit more cruelty, I guess you could call it, in going back and forth. And we saw that with the early 3 downs that both teams were able to achieve.
9 sacks so often is
we get confused
the
a lot,
game.
I know.
Yeah, well,
it's the hair.
Both of you so eloquent. But as you called out, right, that pendulum swing of this zone back and forth. At the end of the day, it matters who gets the zone for just a little bit longer, right? Who can find their timer worn down faster? And at the end of the day, right, it takes some of those riskier plays, especially for this acute team, to come out on top. We called it out and saw it. Czar observed beautifully. Goliath getting 2 in the splatter color screen. That is not often a play that many players would feel confident going for. Goliath has the recognition to step up and get the job done to secure victory for the team, and that extends that timer going on a little farther, because now suddenly C4K has to once again regroup there at the very end of the game with low special counts. Weren't able to do it by the end of the day, and that is what does it. So having that heads up awareness of taking those fights, even if they look like maybe they're not going to be super advantageous, sometimes if you know confidently they're not paying attention to you and can pop out to capitalize on their mistakes, you'll come away with the victory.
Certainly, we would not have the perspective and the story that we're able to build without Czar on the spec cam helping us catch some of those pivotal moments. In Falco, you know, we saw early for C4K, they really looked like they were going to continue the momentum that they had and built up against Honey Badgers. And then this sort of moment clicked, it seemed like, for a cute team. And once they sort of locked onto the zone and built up their strategy, they never really let go.
Yeah, and I think, too, we mentioned with what Glyze was able to do and how well they're able to execute it, as K-Bot pointed out, putting themselves in tricky positions that you don't typically see an Octobrush being confident that they're going to get those splats. And a lot of this back and forth of this game, the zone scoring was very, very close. The team would take the lead, but then immediately give up the zone for about the first 3.5 minutes of the game. So we saw that storyline going on in this game, just how close that these two teams can compete against each other, and I think they know that they're kind of at the equal level as well.
And there's this entire resource economy that these teams are looking for, which is, can we win these fights, these team fights, without expending too many resources, namely the specials that you're going to be using. And that will become especially important as we move to game 2, where we finally complete all 5 of our modes, going now to Turf War. K-Bot, why don't you tell the people how Turf War is going to work?
That's right, it's the classic that everyone starts out playing. You will use your own ink to expand your team's territory. By covering more turf than your opponent, you will become victorious in the game. It's quite simple, as Judd will put it out, right? With laying down that ink and having that area once it's taken at that 3-minute snapshot mark. And that, Zach, is the critical component when you talk about how you utilize your resources. It's how do you have those resources ready to roll in the last 30 seconds of the game and then execute to put your team on top.
And Falco, to kind of ask a follow-up question off of one of K-Bot's points, the mantra has been that 30 seconds and under is the pivotal turning point in Turf War. Does that make the first 2 minutes and 30 seconds completely meaningless, or are there things we can glean and build on in the first part of the Turf War matches that we see?
Yeah, you definitely need to take advantage of the full 3 minutes. It's just really the last 30 seconds, especially if something crucial like a wipeout happens. That is very much an indicator of what is going to happen at the end of the game. And this is this is the only game mode where it's set by a default timer of 3 minutes. A lot of these other modes, they have objectives. The game can be over if you get knocked out. You can't get knocked out in Turf War. So we're going to see a lot of different strategies. What I can guarantee is that mini-map that we see at the end, it's going to be covered completely with ink, as a lot of players like to go out of their way, try and get all these nooks and crannies and crevices that they typically wouldn't do in any ranked mode to just try and give themselves a little bit of leverage.
And that's where stage selection is going to be so clutch here. C4K K-Bot has the honors of selecting the stage as a cute team, winning game 1, got the opportunity to pick the mode. We've only seen one, and we go now to Inkblot Art Academy for Turf War. We talked a little bit about this, not a ton of real estate to maneuver around with, and also some new weapons as we change modes, namely things like the Reflux as well as a Paintbrush.
Yeah, we've seen this paintbrush get picked up a little bit in some of these turf wars in general, and I think in no small part it's because you get a little extra of that coverage, right? Especially when we're talking about just how important the ink is at the very end of the game. Having the extra range on that ink brush, or on the paintbrush, excuse me, is going to help them be that much more beneficial to the rest of the team once we get to the very end. So like this pick overall, we'll see whether or not it pays out for a cute team, as already we see C4K starting to control mid with this Kraken Royale.
That's Bland getting a pick on the Glamour Splatter Shot. Not a variant of the Splatter Shot that we typically see, but we've had the Kraken Royale in plenty of games today, and it's shown how powerful it can be in that invulnerable state. Tuck trying to get down onto the Snipe Rider 5H, which likes to play, it looks like, Falco, on the low ground to make as much of an advantage of the available area of the stage as possible.
Yeah, that's what they're going to try and do to capitalize with what type of momentum they want to push forward and how they want to get some turf on the field. And we saw a little bit, we saw the danger flicker. Now C4K is the team that's in danger, but look, they do have the player, well, now they have the player disadvantage. They did have the player advantage. And as long as a cute team can just keep up this 3v4, making sure you're always making sure that C4K is one player down, you are going to be extremely successful. And Goliath now, look, doesn't even have to spend some time to paint. They're able to shark a little bit. They can give up some of those 3 minutes just to make sure they're in a better position.
On C4K coming back with the Kraken Royale, that was so tough because the Splash-O-Matic had the crab tank ready and did not get to use it before going down. Bland also very weak, and Silver going to have to expend but not fully get off the Booyah Bomb here as we have just a few seconds above a minute remaining here. K-Bot 2v2. Now the crab tank is online, but C4K with a good bit of work left to do.
2 down either side. Nugget popping this crab tank here, electing to use it very early. Goliath is going to come up with the paintbrush and instantly take it out, punishing that crab tank in that position and being all too slippery on this brush class of weapons. And now, as we head down to that vital 30-second mark, we're going to start to see some specials come online, and it'll be an all-out firefight. But with C4K going 2 members down, 35 seconds left to play, it's going to be that much more challenging for them to have the specials to get control of mid.
Liv allowing some jump backs to come through. That's going to be the opposite tactic cooler weapon as Weatherman trying to lock this area down with a splash wall and has a teammate with them to try and keep pace. Tuck, that'd be an important pick to get. They're marked and they will get it. That's going to be the first pick going down as the Paintbrush Goliath trying to play around this ramp. Weatherman still surviving. Liv gets low. Liv goes down. 5 seconds left to go. They do have the Kraken Royale. They won't want to use it if they want to get as much ink down as possible. And the Paintbrush goes down, but it may be a cute team with a powerful performance in game 2. Let's see what the judges think, and it will indeed be a cute team taking game 2 over C4K, Falco. And so we'll have to see how this one is done in game 3, K-Bot. That's 2 up for a cute team. And for C4K, are you even a little bit rattled about, you know, having such a dominant performance over your various matches and then dropping 2 immediately to a cute team and being basically with your back against the wall for this preseason week 2?
I will say, admittedly, it's hard not to be rattled, right? After you pick up 2 losses like that, you feel like the wind was in your sails and then instantly get it knocked out of you. But at the end of the day, right, I think C4K must realize that they're playing up against an opponent they haven't really played much against, is maybe expected to be slightly better across the board. And also, they lost to earlier today in the ladder stage. They're familiar with this team and know how powerful they can be. I think at the end of the day, right, a couple things go differently at the end of the turf war game. Suddenly you find out you're 1-1. Not the world we live in here, and we'll see what a cute team decides to throw at them for the mode next. But C4K really has to continue trying to find a way to regroup here and keep their mental up.
Well, we're going to an old favorite here, Falco. It's going to be tower control on Mako Mart for a game 3 in which a cute team is trying to take the maximum pace with them into the grand finals if they can secure this victory. On the opposite side of things, C4K hopefully not reeling from the 2 straight losses, trying to pull off a reverse sweep.
Yeah, that's what's really tricky to be in this type of position right now, especially coming off of a game like Turf War, where you don't have a lot that you can take away as you can in a traditional ranked mode. There's not a lot you can really take away in the 3 minutes, especially when the objective isn't typically what you're used to playing. So I think this is still a game that's going to be really up in the air. And I mean, I think with how, like, was a cute team with how they play too and how they were able to really push forward, I still think they're going to be riding this momentum of trying to get the win.
And K-Bot, looking towards this one, it is, as we mentioned, with these competitive players, a mode and stage combination that they are more than likely, 99% likely, even used to playing pretty frequently. Does that change your strategy, or do you waver at all from what you know after hours and hours of playing this same stage and mode combination, or do you make that pivot and adjust to the team that's in front of you?
I mean, I really think, again, we haven't seen a lot of changes out of C4K over the course of the day so far. I expect them not to change all that much heading into this one, especially with how comfortable and confident they are on perhaps this stage. But, of course, we'll have to see.
And taking a look at the weapons, it's a Tri-Slosher Ashen that comes out as opposed to the Devoe. That's going to be your splatter color screen weapon of choice. And on the opposite side of things, that Vanilla Blaster X Luna Blaster Neo combination comes through once again, Falco, joined by that Splattershot Pro Frozen that does go down, and then their tactical weapon being that Heavy Edit.
Yeah, again, not a lot of paint that they're really going to be able to use. But again, if you get those picks and you get those splats, and that's not as important. So C4K really going to have to rely on that, but they don't want to get wiped out. And ooh, it looks like they do with just Riv, who's alive. That is a perfect opportunity for a cute team. You have one player who's already on the tower, getting past that checkpoint. All of your teammates immediately going to jump to them. That puts them in the best position so far.
A cute team performing a demolition on the Nugget Bridge that we saw so much success through in a previous game. C4K just trying to find a place to even climb up a wall, but Silver says you're not even going to get that. As we get past the halfway mark of this one, and K-Bot, it's like they have eyes everywhere with how they're spotting them out with these specials.
I'm telling you, a cute team feels like you turn around to look somewhere else for 3 seconds, and you turn back, and suddenly there's Silver, there's Goliath, or there's Weatherman, jumps out of seemingly nowhere and just splats you right away. It's almost impossible to find a way to get away from them, and that's where trying to spread out and cover as much of the stage as you can on a collective front across the team is going to be very important here. But then it's Riv holding down the back line, continues to just chip on away. We'll see if this C4K roster can come back through, but right now it's a 2-down situation, and a cute team's gonna push back the other way.
You know, importantly for C4K, if there's any silver lining right now, no pun intended, they did not allow a cute team to get through that second checkpoint fully. So they'll have to get through it in its entirety, where if they had cleared it, it would not even show up on the stage anymore. The tower would just continue rolling as though nothing had happened. But that's their Snipe Rider gone down. That's also their 52. Effectively a delayed wipe, as their Wiper had already gone down on top of that as well. So a full reset, and a great job, Falco, by C4K, as they need to get Weatherman, and they will. And that'll allow them to make, ideally and in theory, their first tower push.
Yeah, they completed phase 1, which is taking out most of the cute team. Now phase 2, try and take that objective. You can start that with Nugget taking out Rip with that Ultra Stamp. And I've noticed Nugget, they pop the Ultra Stamp. They don't really use it as, paving their way forward. They will immediately throw it at one of their opponents, and sometimes it pays off, but that's going to be really good for C4K to just regroup here in mid. Nugget's going to be hopping on the tower just for a brief moment, but with all of this happening, a cute team able to take advantage and get the better end of the deal with 2 minutes remaining.
I think the Ultra Stamp that we saw fly off of our screen there did connect onto one of the blasters of C4K, so that's going to be another important pick as we see a cute team trying to extend their lead, but they will have to back out. Riv, the last one remaining, the Snipe Rider, who was primarily on the tower, the only one around, although they do have the buff of the Tacticooler, so they will get some reinforcements, namely Gorias, who's going to move forward. Goliath's trying to get a pick as Bland goes down. Riv looking for a second, but will not quite get the picks there. And K-Bot with a minute 38 or so left, only the 97 push from C4K. Silver doing a bit of flanking as well, so they're pulling out every trick in the book.
This is what I'm saying. Nobody knows Silver is back here right now. Finally, Tuck will spot it and take care of Silver. Maybe this is an opportunity here with 2 members down, but C4K really has to get away without trading, and now Goliath comes up with the back lines. 2 down once more for C4K. Feels like it's going to stop this push in its tracks before it can really get started, even though they've got 2 specials to their name to try to get the ball rolling and reignite the push. Here is another 2-down situation. The big bubbler goes down. We'll have to see. With so much cyan ink on this side of the stage, it's going to be possible for C4K to push through, but still an uphill battle. But it looks like, Zach, they might be doing it.
You know what? I'm surprised. C4K committed 2 of their specials early, including an Ultra Stamp practically at their feet on the tower, and they're still able to push through. I believe that's the first checkpoint gone down, and it is. They just need to follow up on it. Tuck even getting a beyond the proverbial grave flow or estate there. Weatherman not able to connect on the Ultra Stamp, so some things going their way as C4K with 20 seconds left to go. Still some room to make up. They do have this big bubbler, Falco, and they're going to need to hang on to it likely for that remaining push if they're able to get it to overtime.
Yeah, you need to use it when you're trying to push the tower. And C4K with 2 members down, but a nice double. The question is, can C4K get on the tower? Yes, they can. And it's going to be a matter of can the team get there. But Silver coming from behind pushes the blaster off at the tower. A cute team able to hop on at the very, very end there. Just says goodbye. I'm going to shove you off here. We're going to move on up into grand finals. So a cute team with that win keeps their streak against C4K 6-0, 3 in the ladder, 3 in top cut. And again, moving on to grand finals to face Ziphius. What a great win for them.
The big bubbler is not an impenetrable fortress. It can be maneuvered around within, and that is exactly what happened, as they are not able to retain control of the tower, getting off right as the members of a cute team. You just need one person on solo for the winning team, and that will end the overtime in its entirety and in perpetuity. So K-Bot, that will be a cute team with a 3-0 moving back up to grand finals. That was a pretty emphatic performance. I'll get your quick thoughts and then we'll go to a quick replay here.
Yeah, I think overall, again, a cute team showing that they are so slippery, you know, as a compliment and a genuine thing, right? The amount of times that they're able to sneak back around the behind of their opponents and pop out of the ink and get a random splat that their opponents weren't expecting is something that they do incredibly well. But it's a strategy that Ziphius has been prepared for up to this point today. And so we'll see how they can be effective versus Ziphius, who tends to play very well coordinated and connected and can very quickly spot out when that strategy is trying to be employed.
Well, it's a 3-0 for a cute team. Let's go to a quick replay here to see just how it happened. This was in the game 3 that you just saw. Big Bubbler gets deployed on the tower as Tuck tries to back off their foes, but they don't see Silver behind the splatter color screen. Tuck tried to jump backwards to get a direct hit, Falco, but they go so far back that they fall just off the tower, and all Silver needs to do is touch, and it's GG from there.
Yeah, just one wrong step on that tower can really mess you up. Even just jumping, levitating in the air, and as long as your opponent is touching the tower, they're going to get credit for it. And when you have the lead, that's going to be the game. So that was a crazy ending, but props to Silver for just recognizing, you know what, we have some time that we can forfeit. I'm going to try this risky move here, and if it works, we win. If it doesn't, we still have some time to try and get it.
Well, let's take a look at our bracket one more time and see how we got here and where we're headed to. It's a cute team with a 3-0 sweep over C4K, and that does in fact set up the revenge match between Ziphius and a cute team, the 1 and 2 seed coming out from ladder. One team in Ziphius 11-0 with 0 games dropped. A cute team 10-1. The only match they lose in ladder is to the aforementioned Ziphius, as well as in winners finals. So K-Bot, definitely a huge opportunity for revenge. Their hands are warm, seems like they're ready to go, and an emphatic sweep seems to be the cherry on top to set them up for a very strong Ziphius team.
And I think that's the other thing we talk about, as you mentioned, being warmed up and being well prepared and having that break where sometimes your hands might go a little colder. You know, this acute team who has these individual players that pop out and have those star moments across the board, they are going to be very momentum driven and might be able to catch Ziphius off by surprise, just because Ziphius hasn't been playing in the tournament for so long. wrong. No matter what you try to do with the moment, play Splatfest at the moment, but even in that world, right, it's going to be challenging for them to be in the same mental state that they would be during a competitive tournament match. And so we'll see if a cute team can try to surprise Xiphias and try to get the ball rolling here early in this grand finals match to attempt to force a reset.
And Falco, as Splatfest is going on in the background, we will be going to Splat Zones for game number 1 of our grand final, and it will be to a stage that we've not yet seen before on stream today. It's Crab Leg Capital for this one.
Yeah, this should be an interesting one too. A lot of greats on the top of on Crab Leg Capital too, and a lot of wide open space too in the middle. Now Xiphias, they haven't played in an hour and a half at this point, I don't believe. And I can only tell they've probably been paying attention to see how the losers bracket has been going and who they're going to be facing too. So yeah, with Crab Leg Capital too, the zone is a little bit on the bigger side as well, if I recall. So it's going to be interesting to see which specials you want to use. You don't have one special you could use to kind of do a solo cap or a solo neutral to try and get some leverage on your team, but it's I do really like the pick. Now we don't see it come up all the time, but it's exciting to see it here in grand finals.
And K-Bot, this is a scary team in Xiphias, a team that's partially made up, as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, of members of DPS Only, who was a top 16 finisher from last season of the Splatoon 3 North American League, Droid, V-Heavy, Jay, and Jose. And they're going to be a scary offensive threat pretty much as far as the eye could see.
Yeah, and I think across the board, right, especially as we turn our attention to Splat Zones on Crab Leg Capital here, there's a lot of avenues for these longer range weapons beyond V-Heavy and whatever Droid plays. Maybe it's the Splattershot Pro Frozen, maybe it's something more akin to that Dynamo Roller we've seen come up once and again, but they have a little more safety on top of these grades, or the higher ground advantage that a cute team won't fully be able to capitalize on all of the time, right? Again, we talk about this team trying to create chaos, approach from flank angles, and approach when it's unexpected, but that unexpectedness might be challenging to find unless it's in the middle of the zone where you mentioned there's that more wide open area.
It's grand finals time between Xiphias and a cute team. Our first game here, Splat Zones on Crab Leg Capital. A rematch between the 1 and 2 seeds coming out of our latter portion. And Falco, what are you seeing from these two teams weapon-wise?
Well, to no surprise from the side of Xiphias, they are sticking with what they ran when we saw them during the winners finals, and a cute team still running with what they want to be comfortable with. We see the Splatana Wiper come out. We see a delayed wipe at that too. Xiphias getting that Splat, taking control of the zone, quickly moving up on these grates. We can see where Jose is putting that bubble as well, and Jay going back to getting some cooler. So Xiphias just getting set up to be more comfortable.
K-Bot, it's such a tough composition to deal with. The Ink Rush, which does go down, can run essentially through these grates. The Dynamo puts out so much ink at a time. Goliath having to use an unsplattable special in order to get some momentum here. A cute team, though, needing to move quickly if they want to fully take this zone.
And again, with how safe Xiphias plays, it's really hard to do that. Look at V-Heavy already backed up behind the zone on top of those grades, and now is going to be able to continue to keep up that pressure across the board. A cute team is going to come back in and finally take control of the zone with 2 members going down, but they have no specials to further sustain this as soon as Goliath's Kraken Royale gets taken down. And you see the Wavebreaker start to come out as Xiphias starts setting themselves up again. I expect this zone to be taken back rather quickly.
Yeah, Goliath with maybe a momentum-based special there. A lot of Xiphias had not jumped down yet. Now they will. Is Jay going to move forward alongside Jose on that blaster? Typical 1-2 punch there as Weatherman jumps into their doom. Jay looking for any possible targets, but all of them except for the Comet's Octobrush have been wiped out. So Falco, Xiphias right back on top, and they've effectively traded positions.
Yeah, we can see Jay trying to sniff somebody out, but their teammates already are one step ahead of them, and they work so well together, too. If Jay can't get them, somebody like Jose is going to be able to splatter. Droid is going to be able to follow up as well. So Ziphius, like K-Bot said, playing a much more careful game. It's very, very polished and able to hold on to the zone. Now, when Goliath is using this Kraken, they seem to just be not really knowing where they want to go, because everywhere they try and turn, Ziphius is just right there. So there's no safe place to end your Kraken if you're Goliath, and Ziphius is just really riding this momentum taking game one.
The remaining points tick down on the zone, and Ziphius effectively picking right back up where they left off from winners finals. That was a relatively emphatic sweep there, and it's a decently emphatic game one with splat zones on Crab Leg, K-Bot, and so strange to me, a team that looked so dominant in our losers finals and a cute team get that turned on its head as they face Ziphius once again.
But again, it's another level of coordination, right? I don't think there was ever a time where it appeared as though one of those members of a Q team surprised a member of Ziphius. They always knew where they were coming from. They were attentive enough and had all of their eyes across the stage, not just in one particular place where they're looking to try to aim, but rather across the entirety of where their opponents could potentially be coming from, and making sure there's plenty of ink on the ground to boot. That's the other component that I called out at the very beginning of our show with this acute team, is that the second they get more paint on the ground as you, is the second that they're going to be able to use that to their advantage, catch you by surprise, pop out of a puddle that you weren't expecting them to be in, and there's less of those opportunities thanks to V Heavy and Droid and their weapon selections here with that Dynamo Roller and with that heavy Splatling itself, being able to output that level of ink to match their opponents, if not beat it, is exactly what is helping here.
And Falco, we do have the stage and mode combination for game two. It's going to be tower control on Robo Ramen. So we go back to that ideology of you're playing at multiple levels. Maybe you're not on that lower sort of alley or moat based level very often, as the tower path is not going to really deviate too much. But the last time we saw Ziphius in the winners finals, we were talking about not a cookie cutter team, but a very tried and true and practiced formula of, okay, we have a dedicated support and anchor player who play in that back lane. It's almost like they're a duo. And then you have Jay and Jose, the skirmisher and slayer, or the two frontliners, if you will. How, if you're a cute team, do you possibly disrupt that duo on a stage and mode combination that's pretty compacted where the actual tower path is going to be?
Yeah, I think you have to take advantage for what this stage has to offer and try and make those risky plays to catch Ziphius off guard, which is hard to do. K-Bot pointed it out so many times that Ziphius always just appears to be one step ahead. It's never surprising where a member of a cute team is going to be, but you just really have to try and see what you can do against a team like Ziphius.
Not noticing any changes on the side of Ziphius. On the opposite side of things, it's a composition much more with the exception of the Luna Neo after the Splatoon 3 North American League 2025 K-Bot, as they'll be rounded out with a Slosher, a 52 Gal, as well as that Sniper Rider 5H.
Yeah, and we'll see, of course. I think this more traditional style and the benefit of those triple ink strikes coming in off of that Slosher can be critical in helping build some momentum for this team, giving someone an avenue to get in. But meanwhile, Jose just continues to be a thorn in the side, is in the flow aura again and looks to back away. Goliath is going to get the best in the blaster duel for the time being and maybe potentially turn this one around. But even still, there's so much to try to contend with right now for Acute.
This is just the blaster show. It's just such a flashy and fun weapon class to watch, and we see Jose getting right back to it. That's two there, helping to lead to a wipeout, Falco. That has to be a big part of Ziphius' success thus far.
Oh, and it has been the entire duration of this top 8, and I'm sure during the latter portion as well. And we have the pleasure of seeing it firsthand now, just how well that they accelerate in a well-deserved flow aura state that they put themselves into. Now Ziphius still risking some players to get past this checkpoint. They're able to do so, getting down to 50. And if you're a cute team, you have to try and regroup. You don't really have a lot you're working with. If you're Goliath, you have one jump you're trying to get, but Jay almost escapes. It is going to be a trade there. Xiphius back in control of mid here. Tower is now going to be neutralized as well. So with a minute and a half down, Xiphius setting the momentum early, getting past 2 checkpoints.
Yeah, and when you get past 50, the tower does enter that kind of lower area of the stage, so you're making good use of it. And this is where I think KBot weapons like the blaster shine, not just in flanking, but you can stay on walls and you can make use of the chaos of where this tower is going to go. The change in elevation, Jose's doing it to a T, absolutely putting on a clinic.
I don't know, that has to be at least 10 splats and assists so far for Jose, and might be looking to pick up another 10 more at this rate by the time the game's over. Doing a fantastic job of being at the right place at the right time, and once again, not being surprised wherever there may be a member from a cute team. And it's all about the support and the amount of ink that's down on the ground while Jose is trying to do all of the same. Jose now jumping back, trying to play a little more passively, and also not trying to push this tower actually all that much, waiting for teammates to try to come back in and catching them off by surprise, and in fact buys just enough time for the teammates to come back in, take care of Silver, who tries to be a little overzealous, and now is holding this tower at this 49-point mark, might be looking to add a few more points to their lead.
And to your point, I don't think Jose gets to the positions that they get in without Droid and V Heavy backing them up, creating that pressure and that space with the exceptional range of their 2 respective weapons in the V Heavy, as well as the Dynamo Roller. Trying to charge up a Fizzy Bomb there, but going down in the end. We see Droid trying to get close enough for any picks. Will have to content themselves with jumping onto the tower, but Falco Zippy is back in the driver's seat, and it's not necessarily about extending your lead at this point. It's just keeping the tower away from mid so that a cute team has to go even further.
Right, the push they're making is not really a pretty push. They're just slowly pushing this tower towards a Q team side. But again, with all that happening, it's just more work that a Q team has to try and push in. And it's always this choke point right here. But Xiphius is looking a little bit more comfortable. They're extending their lead right now. Is it going to be enough for them to get to that 3rd checkpoint? V-Heavy is going to have to hop off the tower to try and stay alive. And a few members are going to go down 2v2. Even if this sets up in neutral, Xiphius can put themselves in a good position where they just play defense for the next minute.
And V-Heavy playing some defense, trying to allow some jump-ins to come through as Silver takes a couple of pot shots, but will retain their life as we have a minute left to go in this one. If we don't see a knockout, Xiphius had already extended that lead from 49 to 36, and now are threatening to go even further beyond there as Goliath looking for a couple picks in mid, will not be able to find them, but still just delaying the inevitable of Xiphius continuing that tower forward. You see KBot, how a cute team has to waste so much time getting this tower out of their own section that if we get an overtime, there could be multiple fights that need to be won in order for a cute team to make it somewhere.
And again, it is all thanks to the passive play when it matters most. You see the whole team rotating over to this right side as the tower comes through, where Jose is already applying pressure. The wipeout comes through thanks to multiple things that happened off of screen, and now we're 4 ticks away. It's another emphatic victory for Xiphius here, as they are now just 1 game away from winning our event today.
We're talking about an overtime like it's even going to happen. Xiphius is saying, don't you dare bring up the mention of an overtime, because we're still going to secure the knockout and make sure y'all know how much better we're feeling today. So Xiphius, as KBot mentioned, just the 1 game away from not only winning the preseason week 2, beating a cute team again, but also completing what you could call the perfect run with 0 matches or games dropped at all today, Falco. That's got to feel pretty good heading into the final week of the preseason, and now next week having our first event of the regular season.
Yeah, they're looking very, very strong. Sitting at 33, don't want to jinx it. Could they push to 34? I said it out loud. Who knows if it will happen now? But with Xiphius getting that wipeout at that final checkpoint, that's just we got it. We got the win here. Let's move on to the next one here, and that's a good feeling to be in when you're Xiphius. And what's even better is that you still get to choose the game mode that is coming up here in Game 3, Zach. And I can't imagine it's going to be anything unconventional that we've seen, because Xiphius has been playing really this bread and butter game of Splatoon 3.
Rainmaker, Clam Blitz, and Turf War are the remaining modes, if I remember correctly. And K-Bot, the first at least half of this stream has been the 3 of Tower Control, Splat Zones, and Rainmaker. So I have to believe that is the odds-on favorite to be selected here for game number 3. Any reason why they wouldn't go there?
The one thing I could think is that potentially there's a world or an argument you could make where Clam Blitz sometimes can play a little slower, especially if you're more confident in your ability to defend territory and back up when it matters more, right? I think that's going to be one of those key instances where potentially, if you're not as confident in your explosive power and ability to make a very drastic push right away, I think possibly Clam Blitz could be the play. Most likely not Turf War, because again, it's all decided with that final fight where you really are expecting to be more explosive. So I could see a Clam Blitz pick here from Xiphias.
It would be quite the surprise to get Turf War of all things. I think Falco, to K-Bot's point, Clam Blitz and Rainmaker definitely more so preferred. But regardless of the mode, something has to click here for a cute team. They have to have some way to handle Xiphias the way that they've been coming out. And we've heard now the stage and mode. It will in fact be Rainmaker, and a pretty logical combination as far as the stage goes. So the stage pick Falco from a cute team is Scorch Gorge. Is this a way that they can break themselves out with this map pick?
It's a choice you can make, I think, if you're a cute team, to try and leverage some aspects, but I don't there's nothing off the top of my head that gives a better solution than Scorch Gorge, I guess. So you're playing with the cards that you're dealt with. You go on to Scorch Gorge. There has to be something, you're thinking maybe Xiphias isn't going to be best prepared for this specific stage. We just have to run with it. We're going to try and throw a Hail Mary and see if it works out.
Well, the best laid plans of Squids and Kids will have to manifest for a cute team, as they have one more game at least to make it through a dominant Xiphias team. Taking a look, K-Bot, at the weapons that we have, the joining of the 2 gals, the 52 and 96 will go up with the Comets, Octobrush, and Snipe Rider in what could be a cute team's last chance to take a game off of Xiphias.
Yeah, interesting to see the pivot to the 96 gal, but again, we've mentioned it a couple of times, especially on Rainmaker with this ink vac. Having that tool at your disposal could mean the difference, but at the beginning here, it's still all Xiphias. Droid in this big bubbler in a fantastic position. As the Rainmaker gets picked up yet again, it gets down to the 42-point mark here before the Rainmaker carry gets taken down, but even still, Xiphias isn't going anywhere.
The ink vac, having to be expended in silver, will smartly grab the Rainmaker and jump off the stage here. Nice splat there by Droid, but I think, Falco, if you're a cute team, that's really all you can do, because if you get to where that ramp starts to go up instead of down, or that lower ground, it might already be too late.
Yeah, you reset the Rainmaker, and you now have a 3-player disadvantage, so Xiphias is just going to pick the Rainmaker right back up and continue off exactly where they were before. We see Goliath trying to flank. We mentioned that you're going to have to try and do something against Xiphias, but it's so hard when a player like Jose can just see it coming from any direction. So now Xiphias taking this a little bit of on the slower side of things, when Jay's the one who's probably going to be trying to push forward, just using that ink brush, going to be a little bit more unpredictable here, and Rainmaker is going to get let down now. So a cute team really seeing what they can do to try and push this Rainmaker back to mid.
Yeah, V-Heavy was not in any kind of particular rush to get the Rainmaker moving. I think 42 a good starting point, and they've already gotten 2 picks there, including the 96 gal. They will pick the Rainmaker back up, and here they go pushing forward. It's going to be the Kraken Royale trying to take them down. They miss multiple times, and the big bubbler is going to allow Jay to get all the way through to 17. K-Bot, I mentioned getting up to this upper ramp is going to be trouble. What do you make of that team fight?
It certainly will be here, and just good movement from the Rainmaker carrier there, hopping around Goliath's Kraken Royale and getting it all the way up there. And now 3 down from a cute team again. The Rainmaker is going to get picked up. He's going to get stopped before the pedestal, but even still, V-Heavy's in the area. Xiphias doesn't feel like they're quite done yet and will continue keeping up this constant presence. Finally, they will back on away as the Rainmaker gets once again jumped off the side of the map and sent back to the mid. But at the same time, we've gone through half of the game's timer, and it has been all Xiphias, Zach.
Riv with the Flow or Estate but it's just V Heavy going back and picking up the Rainmaker again. Falco, it kind of feels like we're living in Groundhog Day, where we're seeing this repetition over and over again. Now a Cute Team finally able to break out of their own side of the stage. Silver getting a pick onto the Rainmaker in V Heavy, but they need to do a lot more than that in order to make some forward momentum.
Yeah, they are getting some trades here, and they're able to get some picks too. You know, when the Rainmaker was back at their spawn, there's really not much else you can do besides resetting the Rainmaker. If you push it forward, you're going to move it maybe 10 units and then get splatted, so they have to play this game where we're sacrificing one person to reset the Rainmaker. And here is finally a true neutral position for a Cute Team to see what they can do, but Ziphius is still wise enough to know where they want to go. You have some players pull back. You have players like Jay who are going to be a little bit more unpredictable, opting to pick up that Rainmaker, still trying to push some splats, and Weatherman using that ink back as well. So going to have to wait for that to be deployed. It's going to go against the big bubbler now. Jay is trying to just figure out where they want to go for the time being, but as Ziphius can control this mid game for the next minute, they are walking away with this win.
Even in the best possible scenario, a Cute Team still has a pedestal to land on for the Rainmaker of their own, having to re-pop the Rainmaker shield after that, and then get all the way to at least 13. So a tall order for a team that is looking to take the first game of the day off of Ziphius. On the opposite side, K-Bot, Ziphius still looking strong. They're not even really wanting to pop the Rainmaker shield at this point. They're going to have to let a Cute Team use all of their resources just to get the Rainmaker shield vulnerable again.
Zach, these might not have been quite as decisive of knockouts, but they are certainly still master classes in overall dominance over the state of the game. And now Jay once again dives on top of Goliath, saying, I'll take the title for the best brush today. With the Rainmaker shield continuing to stay in this neutral state is probably the best thing that Ziphius can do, making sure that it doesn't get popped by a Cute Team. And with 0 seconds to play, the whistle will blow and it'll be Ziphius coming out victorious.
Ziphius completes the perfect bracket, not dropping a single game throughout the entirety of the latter portion, as well as the top 8 portion. And tip your hats, Jose, V Heavy, Jay, and Droid. You have just won preseason week 2, event number 2 of the Splatoon 3 North American League 2026. Falco, your thoughts on this dominant run?
22-0 in the latter stages is very impressive. It's extremely rare that we see teams do it. You continue that momentum into Top Cut without dropping a single game. You're just speechless with how well that you can perform. It was incredible from Ziphius with how well they performed. They were extremely polished in all their movement. They didn't really change a lot of their weapons too, so they may have been one of the most predictable teams going into this tournament, into the top 8, and they were just one step ahead of every team they faced.
And K-Bot on the side of a Cute Team, clearly some flashes of brilliance from them. You know, they 3-0 a pretty strong team in C4K. You know, they go through the winner stage and they're able to take down Not For Radio, the 3 seed 3-0. And before that, another 3-0 against Inkthus. So I'm sure some positive takeaways that they can bring into the regular season portion of the league.
Certainly, again, that's what this preseason is all about, right? It's about practice and making sure that you're in the most polished form by the time that the regular season does roll around. If you can take a couple of things, go back to the drawing board and figure out where your own team's weaknesses are as you push to find your own team's identity, you'll be able to come out that much more victorious and be more well prepared for the regular season of the Splatoon 3 North American League 2026.
Well, I believe we'll have the finalized bracket for you and the schedule as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at that really quick as we see this was event number 2. Of course, the preseason final week of the Splatoon 3 North American League 2026. Event 3 will be the first week of the regular season. Before that, you can catch the Splatoon 3 North American League 2026 show on Friday, April 17th, and every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And then, of course, Event 3 on the 18th of April will start at noon Pacific on that Saturday, but Top 8, the live stream, will start at 4 p.m. Pacific. Then on Sunday, we had some fun with Salmon Run earlier, showed you how fun it can be. The Splatoon 3 North American League 2026 Sunday Scrim will take place on Sunday, April 19th, also at noon Pacific time. And of course, it all leads up to the Splatoon 3 North American League 2026 playoffs, live streamed both on June 20th and June 21st, starting at noon Pacific time on both days. Let's take a look at the finalized bracket here for this final preseason week. Ziphius, as we mentioned, completing the perfect bracket. No games dropped, no matches dropped, on their way to a grand finals victory in event number 2. Acute Team, your second place team, and C4K in third. Let's get some final thoughts here. In K-Bot, we'll start with you. What did you think of our last preseason tune-up?
Yeah, great showing from our teams today. Again, the folks that did come out get some learnings and take-home action items to take care of as they prepare for the remainder of the season. As you mentioned at the top of the show, Zach, this is a marathon, not a sprint. It is not just about performing their best in one specific event. It is about having a consistent presence in multiple events hereafter. And teams have enough time to adjust and tweak their strategies as they come together. So it's been fun to see the diversity of ideas that we have here in terms of the compositions and everything that we've got, but we'll see who's able to come out on top and who's able to refine it best as we head into the season.
And Falco, closing thoughts. What did you love from today, and what are you looking forward to in the regular season?
Yeah, I loved a lot of the weapon choices that we saw too, and some of the stage and mode combinations that we saw as well. Of course, Ziphius with their flashy showing, dominant victory, always exciting. And I'm excited for the regular season of the league when we know there's probably going to be a lot of teams signing up, waiting for the regular season to start to really shine and see how far that they can go. It's really glad to be back, Zach.
Well, that is going to do it for Event 2 preseason week 2 of the Splatoon 3 North American League 2026. I have to give a huge shout out, of course, to all of the production staff, Czar on the spectator cam, my wonderful co-casters in K-Bot and Falco, and of course all of you watching at home. I hope you'll tune in to both the Splatoon 3 North American League show, the Event 3 regular season week 1 of the Splatoon 3 North American League 2026, as well as the Sunday Scrim. But that's going to do it. Everyone, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.